Welcome to the Filthy Animals podcast. Today, returning guest, Professor Elyusha. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Um, Today, we are going to cover. It is March, but we're in a position because of COVID, the pandemic, where some of these movies were kind of delayed on coming out. So usually, you and I are pretty quick to get all our Oscar-winning films by like December and kind of take those in. But with everything, of the current state, we had to kind of wait till we felt more appropriate to really be able to make a proper list.
Well, I mean, if you look at just the release schedules, everything got messed up, as as people know, with like Tenet being pushed or movies like James Bond consistently being moved and coming out this year instead of last year. But even more so, the Oscars this year are going to take place at the end of April, if I remember correctly. When last year, I think it was like the first weekend of February. So you're looking at a 3-month kind of window where typically end of December was kind of like that's the end, everything's going to be out, and maybe January, February you would get those other minor releases that you still had a chance to see in theaters. But today, because everything is kind of jumbled in and messed up, you have movies like Judas and the Black Messiah coming out, but it's a 2021 release but counted for the 2020 Oscars. Then you have stuff that came out in 2019 that's counting for 2020, and so it's tough. So we try to, I think, do our best to figure what we can do that will make sense for that list.
So is Judas and the Black Messiah a 2020 or 21?
I counted it as 21.
Perfect. It makes my life a
Yeah,
little easier right now. Okay.
because it must have got some kind of well, no, because the whole Oscar calendar, that's what I mean, is that
Yeah.
because normally you would have to have it released before the end of the year of, let's say, 2020 normally.
Right.
But now, because of that 3-month window going into 21, it's counting it as well. So I didn't, because it's a 21 film. So I don't know. Again, we don't have any rule book. We're just going off instinct, I think, here.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Do you want to name off some of the ones where if it was considered 2020, it would maybe be in our conversation? Like maybe you can just I think it's really good just to promote some of these films that people haven't seen. For instance, what was your favorite film from 2019?
Les Miserables really stood out a lot to me. I'm a
The
huge
the
fan.
musical?
Yeah, I love, Russell Crowe singing is always a good thing. Actually, I don't mind the musical, I have to be honest. I had a fun time watching it, but no, I'm referring to the Ladj Ly film, the French film that heavily inspired by the works of Spike Lee, La Haine, some of my favorite films. I think I mentioned it in our 2010s kind of all, like favorites. I
Okay.
mentioned it being right on the outside, maybe like in the 15, 16 of that decade. I just think it's a great film. It's a very topical film, very current film, but pulls from a lot of history. And that ending, that last 10, 15 minutes, it's like a war film. And it's on Amazon. I encourage everybody to check it out. But that would have been my favorite film of 2019, but some people count it as a 2020 film. So I thought I would just,
Good.
leave it to when it was actually made or released. So that's one that I would say for me. But anything for you that you would say that kind of is in that same boat,
Saint Maud.
Saint Maud?
And I love that film a lot. I think it was really good, really well done. And that's one where maybe Promising Young Woman, I got myself too excited before I saw it. With Saint Maud, it really did match my expectations. I was expecting a lot from it. I had to wait a long time to be able to finally see it, and I just thought it was so cool. I thought it was such a fun film.
And I've even seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire on some of
Oh,
the
good.
2020 lists, but I would consider that a 2019 as well. And I think that's a beautiful, a great film as well. And I know in a future episode, you guys will be covering it. I'm looking forward to hearing that too. So again, just the whole world is flipped upside down now. So, the lists are going to be weird, but I think we made it work. We try to compile things, try to at least get on the same page with each other so we're not overlapping or missing things. So yeah, that's kind of the way that we viewed in terms of the scope of the year.
Another one that that I really enjoyed, and it was a recommendation from you, and I think it's a 2019 film, is Come As You Are.
Yes, yeah, I thought about that one too because I know that you had a stronger reaction to it than I did. But I did see that one too. I said, okay, was that a 2019, 2020? But yeah, that's another one too that's kind of on that weird edge, unfortunately.
Cool. I think we paid our proper respects to that, little window of time. Shall we do just some like honorable mentions, or like do we just go to 10 and then kind of
Yeah, I mean, we can do you want to do kind of, I know it's different when we're doing a decade because there's so much more to really get into. Um, we can how about we get into just the 10 and then at the end
cool.
maybe go back and kind of do, what was our 11, 12, or just things we want to name off, because I have some guilty pleasures from this year that are not my 10 favorite, but I really enjoyed watching those movies. So
can you start this week? Can you start with your number 10?
no, yes, I can. Trying to get my thoughts organized, but my number 10 film, I think I had asked you to watch it. I'm not sure if you saw it or not yet, because both of us are trying to catch up on a bunch of things. It is on Amazon Prime. I think it's basically Amazon film technically. And my theory with this movie is that if they would have slapped an A24 logo before this movie, in terms of like it's an A24 film, it would have got a lot more attention, because A24 has got this huge fan base. You mentioned Saint Maud, Uncut Gems, like they just have done such a great job of becoming the voice of independent cinema. And this one, when you look at the
right,
what,
is that like a woman? Am I saying it?
are you trying to guess the movie?
Yeah. Is it?
I don't know what you were doing, but
it's like a woman. It's like a woman walking.
Okay.
I'm your woman.
No.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Then I'm not going to guess anymore. All right.
No. It's actually I did like that film. That would have been in my honorable mentions. Okay. But it's called Blow the Man Down. Did you see that one?
No. What a great title.
Yeah, it's co-director. It's two co-directors, Bridget Savage Cole, Danielle Crudy, and we talked about this with, I think, when we were talking about the Coen brothers in our kind of 10 favorite films. I think we brought up Big Lebowski. We talk about Fargo. I said I would love to just live in a Coen brothers world.
Yeah.
And this movie is 100% in a Coen brothers world, the way that it's presented. And you have dark humor. You have basically these two characters dump a body. I won't tell what happens, but then they have to kind of cover up their crime. And it just has a Coen brothers feel. It's got dark comedy. It's got these scenes where these characters are singing like these old sea shanties, and the way that they film it, I think, is beautiful. The music, the way that they use it, it reminded me of There Will Be Blood in the Lighthouse. Really moody, kind of getting you into that zone. Just the idea of inexperienced criminals, I think that was really fun to see. And how did they cover something up when they've never done it before? It also reminded me of, did you ever see Heavenly Creatures, the Peter Jackson film with Kate Winslet?
Oh.
Kind of these two female leads coming together, crime, all that kind of stuff. I just love the way that they shot the film, and the cinematographer on this film is the same person who did the Hustler cinematography, who I was a big fan of, and he then went on to do the Thor, whatever that last Thor film was. So it's cool to see his range that he did. He's doing Thor, he did Hustlers, which I was a big fan of from 2019. Great color schemes, like visually just very stimulating, awesome shots and close-ups. It's shot in Maine, I think. That's kind of where the story takes place, and kind of has that feel. Some veteran actresses in the movie. Margot Martindale, who maybe you don't know her name, but if you look her up, you'll know her face immediately. She's been in like $1 Million Baby. Just amazing character actress. June Squibb from Nebraska. She was the wife of Bruce Dern. She was in I think White Boy Rick as well, and then Annette O'Toole. So you kind of have like these three veteran actresses, but really Margot Martindale carries it. And then the two leads, Sophie Lowe and I'm trying to remember, I wrote her name down, Morgan Saylor. They kind of carry the whole film. So I just really appreciate it. And I really do believe that if it had that A24 stamp, people would talk about it more. I thought it was a fun film. I love crime. I love dark humor. And of course, if you can give me anything that's kind of in that realm of Coen Brothers,
Yeah.
I'm going to get excited. And also just the music and things. So for me, that was my 10. And I had trouble with my 10 because I had 2 on the outside. And I just thought I'd rather give recognition to this one because maybe it was less seen by people. But yeah.
Um, cool. Very cool. That's a great title, and that was a good little breakdown of it. I'm like totally sold, and we'll watch that very over the next 48 hours. I'm probably gonna watch that. Um,
So that was my 10, Blow the Man Down.
my number 10, I believe you have watched. If it's not in your top 10, it'd be cool just to kind of get your opinion on it too while it's up. This is based off the book by Jessica Bruder. It's directed by Chloe Zhao. This is her third feature. And this is Nomadland. Made my top 10 this year. I think I do prefer the writer over Nomadland, but overall, I really enjoyed the world that I was in. I like the idea of that kind of guerrilla feel, but yet we're in a narrative. I think they paid really good respects to the book and the characters in the book and honoring these stories and this lifestyle of these people. It's a beautiful film. And some of the scenes didn't get me too emotionally than some, but I would look over to the person I was watching it with, my wife, Kendra, and she would be in a puddle. Really good performances and kind of a Safdie brothers reference where, you can't tell who are non-trained and trained actors, great performances by people, awesome monologues. And yeah, I appreciate sometimes when I'm forgetting the woman's name right now, but Frances McDormand, of course, does an incredible job, but she has a really interesting name. Swanky. Swanky's the one who has to go see the penguins and talks about getting to go see them as she's sick and kind of living the life that she's living. Her monologue I thought was incredible. But yeah, I thought that was a really good film. What did you think?
I'm a big fan of this film.
Okay, is it in your top 10?
It is, yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, but I'll just kind of echo some things that you said.
Yeah, please.
I mean, first and foremost, Frances McDormand, she was on my list of favorite actresses, and this is a big reason why. You just believe her in this role. You know what I mean? She reminds me of Willem Dafoe in terms of the rawness that they have, that you believe that for 40 years of her life, she's been doing this. You don't look at it and go, oh, that's Angelina Jolie or Charlize Theron pretending to be, you know what I mean? They can never do that because they have a certain look that's kind of this movie star type thing that it just doesn't have that believability. Or like, let's say George Clooney or, like Brad Pitt does a movie like this. You would never fit them in that role. And I'm not talking anything about looks necessarily, but being able to embody a role. And she brought a lot of herself in this film. In fact, the name of the character, Fern, is a take on her own name, which her name is Frances, but she goes by Fran. Cool. So she kind of created this alter ego of herself, Fern, to say, well, what would I have done if I was a nomad and had to go through this and all that? And I just love this type of casting. I've told you a million times, Uncut Gems, all that. And it's a really tough thing to pull off because if I remember correctly, I saw a couple of interviews. They said that the people in the film, like the real nomads that they pull from, none of them even knew who Frances McDormand was in terms of this 2-time Oscar winner. They thought she was a real nomad. A lot of interactions are them kind of speaking to one of their fellow nomads. And it's just the way the film is shot. And Chloe Zhao is a big fan of Terrence Malick. I saw a Criterion clip of her talking about The New World and how she really loves that film. And as I watched this film and as I watched The Rider, the way the landscape, the images, the wide angles, the use of music, this is in that world. We just talked about the Coen Brothers world being in it. I love the Terrence Malick world. Obviously, he's one of my all-time favorites, but you could see a lot of natural light. You could see magic hour. I call this style, I don't know if it's coined or anything like that, but I call it almost like poetic neorealism, because you're bringing in those elements of neorealism in terms of non-professional actors, real settings, all that kind, dealing with everyday life. But then you're bringing this poeticism to it, where you have those landscape shots and you have the music and the images and nature and all that. So, um, yeah, I'm really glad I got a chance to see it before we did this list, because it is going to be on mine. But yeah.
Um, I think yeah, it's a beautiful film. Not a lot of I wouldn't recommend it to the boys. You know, I don't know if it would hold their attention to some of them, but I even like got a kick out of, there's a scene where they go to like a carnival or something, and they film them walking up to the entrance, and then it's like kind of daytime, or the magic hour, and then later on it's like dark and they're like buying candy or so and so. And I just thought to myself, like, they probably filmed for like a couple hours and got what they could of what they thought was good footage. And how cool is that when you can just get an A-list actor and then go away with them and go make a movie? It's just it's incredible, and it was very intimate. It was a great film, and I appreciate the scenes where she's like nude and lying in the river. It's like Into the Wild, that kind of
Yeah.
that freedom. And
I thought of Into the Wild. I thought you would enjoy that, because it deals a lot with the same themes of just stripping everything and just living on basic needs and not worrying about, and these are real people that do this type of thing, and that world exists. And that's what I love, is being able to spend that hour 45 minutes in this world and seeing kind of how these characters develop over time. And I think a lot of it was just, it's pretty much kind of like a one woman show. And I really appreciated, again, using that word raw and real, of her kind of in the lake naked, her basically like taking a crap, sitting on the, what I mean, like, these are such real moments that not a lot of actresses want to put themselves out there, like,
you're right.
taking a crap on screen. And I just love everything that she does, and I thought it was such a good match
Yeah.
for her and Chloe to work together. And I'm really excited to see Chloe's career, because the writer and this film have a connection. You can feel it.
Definitely.
Did you ever see that Songs My Brother Taught Me, the one she did, her first film?
No, but that's why I knew to say this was her third. I need to check it out.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that one either, but I know it's very similar. I think it deals with Native Americans, and they use real Native American. I think they film it at a reservation. But then her next film, you know what her film is that she's finishing up right now?
So when I was reviewing the pod with Myra, I was seriously joking. And I said, "Oh, they're gonna make her do a superhero Marvel film." I think they are.
Yeah, Eternals
That's
is the
great.
one that she's doing. So I think that's cool for her to be able to go back and forth between the two, to be able to.
This guy is in the Eternals.
Oh, is that where that's from?
Yeah, his name is Lockjaw.
Oh, okay. I wonder
And
who's
he's gonna,
voicing.
I don't know, but they're probably I don't know, but I can't wait to see him on the big screen.
I don't know much about that whole series. I mean, I'm not the huge comic book person. I mean, I know some of the who's in it. Salma Hayek. That's the one where Kumail Nanjiani got ripped. Was for that one. Yeah, where he looks like. Never mind. So yeah, so I love that she's going and doing Eternals. I would love for her to come back and do Small and go back and forth. I think that's the ultimate kind of career to have, is where you can have the ability to do the $150 million film. And then I think the budget for this was 4 to 5 million,
Cool.
or 2 5, not 45, but
Yeah.
talking less than 5 million maybe. So yeah, I'd love to see kind of that kind of trajectory.
I just found out Minari was under 2 million, and I was just blown away by that. I thought it was that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, people think you need, and of course, 2 million is a lot.
It
We're
is.
relatively speaking, 2 million in the world of film is not a lot. And I always tell students too, is that if you think you need a lot of money to make a film, no, there's a lot of things that go into it: story, character. You have something to say, And I used Eighth Grade as an example, because that movie only cost about 3 million to make, and I think it's more creative because of that, because it wasn't relying on, oh, we're going to have an explosion halfway through that's going to get everyone excited. It's like, you got to develop your characters. So not surprised to hear that about Minari. And of course, with this film, it's all character driven. So
Right. And it was cool to get like David Strahan.
Strathairn.
No way. That's how you say it?
Yeah.
I fucking butcher these names, man. I just butcher these names. It was awesome seeing him show up though, and just like, and then you trade everything. You know, like you try to get like, you know, you come up on a can opener, you're trading a ashtray. You know, it's just cool.
Well, I've always been a big fan of his, and I always wondered why he didn't get more, because he was in LA Confidential. I think that was one of the first movies I saw him in. And then when I saw him in Good Night and Good Luck, I don't know if you remember that one.
That's the
That
one I
was
know him from.
his big breakout films, and I said, this guy is awesome. And then I don't know, maybe he does a lot of theater or something, but really, really talented actor. And I'm glad that he got a role like this. So, and of course, the music, I want to mention Ludovico Einaudi, the Italian composer who just, I mean, the Untouchables, you know, he did the, you know, they used his music. Um, This Is England uses his music. Russell Crowe's The Water Diviner uses music. One of probably, when you talk about modern era, just musicians and composers, one of my probably my favorite of just kind of the newer era of his music is just, he just brings so much emotion so quickly, and
Yeah,
it's very piano driven,
yeah,
and he just gets to it. You know what I mean? Like you just put up some sort of very kind of nature or image or something, and he just gives it this, he just spins it into something that gets you really emotional quickly, and that's not an easy thing to do. So I love the way she used music and the way that his music was used as well.
yeah. I like in the podcast where I talk about it with Myra, I like forget his name, the composer, and I'm like, Elyusha's gonna be so mad. I addressed that. That's incredible that she was able to get his music and get it in there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if she was using existing music or he made it for the film. Most likely, everyone uses his existing music. I haven't seen him compose anything for a film, but his music is perfect for movies. I mean, it's just made for it.
I have a note from the film where the dedicated to the ones that drifted apart. I thought it was
Yeah,
kind of cool, man. There's just yeah. No, but anyway, so yeah, that is my number 10, and then we can cover it more when we find out what number it is in your top 10.
yeah, and I know you also covered it pretty detailed with
Cool,
my.
man. This is awesome. I geek out on this. I just think this is so fun. What
Thank you.
is your number 9, dude?
My number 9 film is a film that we covered in pretty good detail. And I wish it was a little bit higher, but certain things for me didn't. I tried to do my best to kind of not let them hold me back, and it didn't. I really enjoyed the film, but One Night in Miami I had as my
Whoa.
9 film, and I know you're that. Whoa, probably you thought it was going to be even higher, but I really enjoyed the film. It's nothing bad to say, but when you have Sam Cooke, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and Jim Brown, it's like it's just amazing to see that on screen. And I think just having Sam Cooke being portrayed was just amazing to see in a film. And he's been getting recognition. Leslie Odom Jr., a lot of great visuals. Again, very theatrical the way that it's presented because it is based on a play. Really like the film, and a great opening movie for Regina King to come out and do. And there's a lot of great moments that stand out. But something, I guess maybe some of the portrayals, some of the way Malcolm X was being portrayed, some of the things kind of didn't quite sit with me that well, or even the casting of the Muhammad Ali actor. So some of those things are the reason why I couldn't. And also I think about I shouldn't always say this, but I think about Denzel's performance, and I think about all these things, and I go, but nonetheless, great ensemble performance. Any movie that can get Sam Cooke on screen with a significant role, talk about his life, his music,
Mhm.
I'm never going to be down on. I'm always going to be up on that. So, great film. I want to see it multiple times, see if it changes my mind. You know what I mean? In terms of, hey, maybe it's number 4 when I think about it in a few months, or maybe it's not in the 10. But I knew it was going to be in there. I just didn't know. I was trying to think of kind of the spacing, but a couple of those flaws is kind of what diluted it. But a great film in terms of performances and what it says, the message. One Night in Miami, the 4 kind of like we said, the Black Avengers, the superheroes coming together. And it's tough. I mean, when you talk about these 4 guys, how do you even cast people to, what I mean? Like Denzel, forget about it, but it's tough. So yeah, I had that one as my number 9, One Night in Miami.
Yeah, I think I'm doing my top 10 off of after I saw the film, how much time did I spend with it after the fact? Like how much did I obsess over certain scenes or watch over and over again, or had to listen to the soundtrack, the composer, what did I become obsessed about the most? And there was a couple scenes from One Night in Miami that I would seek out or YouTube or something, and I watched some scenes over and over again. There's some really really good isolated moments from that film that are excellent.
Agreed.
My neighbor, I won't say his name because of the information that I'm sharing. He got to get like a bunch of raw footage from it, you know, and I told him about the ending and how it ends, like with his sigh, and like the cut of it. I saw an interview with Regina King, and that originally wasn't the ending of what they shot. So I was asking him, I don't know the answer to this, but I was like, what was the original ending, and then what did they find in the editing room? And I've just been really curious about that since then.
There's a lot of beautiful moments in this film. Again, we talked about it, whether it's the Muhammad Ali boxing underwater. This is my problem, is when you know so much about the real life people. I have to kind of turn off that filter, but I can't, because the chronology was off, the timeline was off. What they were talking about with Sam Cooke, he wrote Change is Gonna Come before they had this meeting, a year before, you know what I mean, like, or months before. He performed it live on Ed Sullivan, no, Johnny Carson. He did it before they met, you know what I mean? So I'm starting to look, but again, it's not a documentary. I have to kind of breathe and say this is not in terms of fact, in terms of the way it's presented. But those things just kind of, I think that's why it kind of dropped a little bit for me, is because I don't want to say I know these people, because I don't, but I respect and historically have read books and things. But yeah, a lot of beautiful moments. That moment with Sam Cooke, the acapella where they do Chain Gang, that's one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite moments of any movie of last year. If we were doing like top 10 favorite moments, that would be pretty high up, maybe like top 5. So I'm with you, but I try to look at it more as a whole piece, as opposed to there was like 4 or 5 moments that I liked, but what do those moments add up to as a whole? And I still think it's in the 10. It's not like I thought it was garbage. Number 9, it's in there. So it sounds like it's in yours. So you'll probably have more to talk about it when we get to it.
Maybe not, but it is my. I get it. And then like the goal is, what is your favorite film where you were completely 100% in, and there's moments that took you out of it, which is rough, and like it not being historically accurate is a tough choice you have to make when you're writing it. Do we just make it more cinematic, or you know what I mean?
You're always going to take artistic liberties, and that's why I don't want to fault Kemp Powers, the writer. I don't want to fault Regina King, because they're not there to teach you about their day-to-day, who they were in terms of a documentary style. They're there, it's a real event, but a fictional interpretation, because like we talked about in the podcast, nobody was in the room with the 4 of them. There was no recorder, there was no reporter, there was nothing. So you got to generate conflict somehow, right? 3, 4 guys in a room, you got to talk about something. And that's why I think they brought in Sam and his music, Malcolm and things with Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali and things like that. But I thought it was really, really well done in terms of acting. I think the actors, all brought something really great to the table. But I still think Leslie Odom Jr. as Sam Cooke, the more I think about it, really stood out to me the most. I felt like Kingsley Ben-Adir, who played Malcolm X, it felt like kind of an impression of Malcolm X.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As opposed to Denzel, who I think really became Malcolm X. But again, comparing it to that movie, these are 2 different styles, 2 different filmmakers, different times of life. So, but for me, number 9 was One Night in Miami. Very good film.
Very cool. Very cool. Yes. Sam Cooke stole the show for me, or that actor in it stole the show for me. My number 9 is all these films. I would love to make a film like this one day, but I feel like every filmmaker should make a film like this in their career at some point. Um, and it's kind of like not prioritizing a narrative, expressing something of, as David Lynch would describe it, what's in your hopper. What are these little moments that we remember that are from our childhood, or just memories that we have, or flashes from something that your mom said, or when you got yelled at, just these random little memories, or going to an event and just things that you remember at the event. Um, I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about?
Hmm. No, I don't.
Cool, cool.
Not sure.
I'm talking about Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending.
Oh, okay, okay. I
Yeah.
not see what you mean about memory and all that. Okay,
I
cool.
think it's amazing where we're like constantly trying to figure out what movie are we in, what
Mm.
the hell is going on. Even when we get to the house and we're dealing with Toni Collette's character, and it reminds me of like Coraline with the way they did her eyes, and dealing with subgenres. Just like sometimes you would have a happy dream, but sometimes you maybe have a nightmare, and the randomness of how our dreams are and how our brain kind of jumps around. Cassavetes reference is always really cool in the car ride. Yeah, I thought this was a really great experience. And then to have you describe to me the ending where we get a Beautiful Mind reference, all of it's just like, what the what the hell is going on, I love that film. It was cool.
There's a lot of layers in the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to absorb it in one viewing. You got to go back and watch it again. And Charlie Kaufman just always liked this anyway, in terms of the way he presents his characters and what they go through. But the one thing you said about the genres, I really appreciated. With you kind of have like a romantic comedy in the beginning, this couple that is not getting along. Then it kind of shifts just into just a standard drama. Then it becomes like a psychological horror film. Then it shifts to a musical at one point.
Right.
Comes back to like this weird drama again. So, and that's hard to pull off. We talk about movies like Parasite that balance that out in a really, really effective way. This film I wouldn't say is nowhere near Parasite, but it still does an amazing job of balancing those things out. It's not easy to do. And Charlie Kaufman is, his name for a reason, and he has a very unique mind and a unique way of presenting things. And I loved all the references, like you said, the Cassavetes and Pauline Kael, even the musical Oklahoma, like the dance that they do is referencing that. A Beautiful Mind, I was cracking up because that's one of my, obviously Russell and Jennifer Connelly, my two favorite actors,
Yeah.
male and female. I know that speech so well because I've seen the movie, 100 times. So at the end, when he's starting to say it, for a second, I had to pause and I go, hold on a second. And then he goes and says the whole thing. And I thought the way he used it is genius, because in the movie, in A Beautiful Mind, he's saying to his wife that I'm here in a good way because of you and what you did for me. You supported me through all the bad parts. You supported me through, I'm schizophrenic. And I'm Thinking of Ending Things. He's telling the woman, whether she exists or not, you put me in this position of how crazy I am now. So it's giving you the opposite. He says, you're all my reasons, basically, for going insane right now, that I'm kind of making up things in my head. And is the woman real? Am I dead? Am I alive? So I really appreciated just the idea of kind of memory and the infusion of different art forms. I thought it was definitely a film worth checking out, but a lot of people will look at it, be confused. They might not, you know what I mean? It's one of those that I would love to recommend to more people, but you kind of got to know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm all for opening the doors and just saying, watch it, because you're never gonna learn to like those films if you don't even get a chance to watch one and see. So you can't always be in that comfort zone of, oh, it's got to be an Adam Sandler comedy. Sometimes break out of it. You never know. Maybe it becomes your favorite film. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, or you hate it. But either way, watch it.
Yeah. I love the idea of because someone at Charlie Kaufman's level, it's like know the rules so you can break them. And this is a guy that knows, he's a great writer, a very talented writer. And so for him to be in a position of okay, now I'm gonna mess with the audience's expectations. I just think he had a lot of fun, and I felt it too. I felt it with him, you know.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, good choice.
Cool, cool. That's number 9.
Number 9. My number 8. This was something that you had seen before me, a film, and you really suggested it. You said, "Oh, I remember when you watched it. I could feel you say, 'Hey, watch this. I can't wait for you to see it, talk about it, etc." And I heard other people speak about it, but obviously, I take your word very much higher because when we speak about films, we have similar tastes. Sometimes we don't. Yes, yeah, exactly. My number 8 is Bad Boys 3. No, it's a Sound of Metal, which I think it's getting a lot of appreciation. I don't want to say it's kind of underappreciated because Riz is getting a lot of Best Actor attention. Darius Martyr is the co-writer and director of the film, and just a really unique approach to the idea of doing the thing that you love and what you're risking if it's going to harm you in some way. What are you willing to do? And the first maybe 30 minutes of the film, I didn't quite connect as much, but once he really gets into kind of the conflict and finding himself and being in that world, I just really appreciated the way that it was presented. It's kind of just the basic idea. It's a hard rock drummer, like a metal drummer, that loses his hearing.
Yeah.
And what happens, right? So when you talk about drumming and music, everything is about hearing and what happens when you don't get to it. And I love the way they used sound. I'm a big fan of sound design. And obviously, when you talk about losing hearing, the way they would put you in his perspective, going in and out, or when it was not clear, you were feeling it, when they were singing the song at the end, the interaction with his girlfriend and how that evolves. It felt really real. And I still want to try this out of doing the double feature of Sound of Metal and City Lights, because I feel like that's a cool thing of blind and deaf and sacrifice. And at the end, coming together, what's the result? So it's a film that I think, like I said, is getting more recognition as it's progressing. I know you're a big fan, so it's probably pretty high up on your list, but just really enjoyed the way that the character developed and the decisions that were made and everything like that. So for me, Sound of Metal I had as my number 8 film.
Yeah, I like okay, cool. I'll just do this. Watch, you'll see. Cool. Okay, my number 8 is it's Sound of Metal. My number 8.
Is it?
Yeah. So might as well just like continually add on to.
Has that ever happened? I don't think we've ever had the same number.
The one thing I really got a kick out of was my number 6 for 2000 and 2009 was Batman, and then for you in the 90s was I thought it was like cool, like that was also your number 6, but it's kind of ends there. Like that was the only one I kind of remember,
I know we've shared similar films like Irishman or something, but I don't know. I think this is the first time we've actually put it at the exact same number.
Yeah, correct. It's the exact one.
Well, I'll pass the baton. Tell me what you think.
I really enjoy this film. I'm covering it on Monday with someone's first time on the podcast. That's the film they wanted to talk about. My grandma wears hearing aids. I have a friend that's hard of hearing, so I always kind of came from a place of like empathy. But then the more I've thought about the film, and then especially kind of leading up to Monday, I really enjoy the fact that like you want to fill your soul with things that you're passionate about, and that's what you want to like focus on, and it will help you with all the other stresses of your life. And so you have a drummer that's chasing his dream, dealing with his sobriety. He's focused on the lady and the woman, and these are like the positive things in his life, but he's also able to be happy giving back and helping with children, and how that kind of fills that hole also. So I just think there's some cool lessons there if you choose to kind of see it in that way. And I love the stuff on the slide with the kid, and it's like a metal slide. They do it like incredible job with sound design and putting you into what we're hearing and then putting you into what they hear, but I always dig. I love a morning routine. I love when he wakes up and makes the shake and the health smoothie, and he's trying to make his lady drink it, and he's doing his squats and push-ups. And I don't know why, like instantly I appreciated the quality of the film we were in, how they were filming it. And I dig that actor. I think he's great. Like, yeah. So, yeah, it's my number 8. It sounds like we both agree on that.
Yeah, and also I think Paul. I don't know if it's Paul Rossi or Paul Racci, but the I thought he was great. The way that I think he should be getting more recognition too in terms of supporting role. And also, I saw an interview with Marlee Matlin the other day. She was on I think it was Trevor Noah, and she was talking about because she just did a new movie I think called Coda, which is about kind of the deaf community. And then
Okay.
I think she produced a short film that casted real deaf actors in it as well. And she was promoting the idea of, if you're going to do a movie about someone that's deaf or the deaf community, try to cast from that real emotion that they've gone through. And they showed a clip from the short film that she was a part of, and it was great. Like I said with Nomadland, I love that type of casting where you can, and it's hard because you got to get a performance and they're not professional, but if you can tap into something real, it can be a really special film. And I think recently with movies like A Quiet Place and Sound of Metal and all that, like they're really trying to get into that. And I know that actress in A Quiet Place, that young girl is deaf, if I remember correctly, or hard of hearing. But I really support that of, yeah, pull from the person that went through it and can give you a real life example of that emotion. So I would love to see that as well in terms of deaf filmmakers, deaf writers, deaf actors, like everything, because we need new voices. And it's been something that I think we haven't seen as much as we should. Marlee Matlin has been kind of the person that has become that Mount Rushmore of, she's kind of there by herself in terms of actors and actresses, and she won an Oscar. So, but I would love to see more of that kind of role for people that are hard of hearing or in that deaf community.
In the past couple years, I've seen it really pick up. You have C.J. Jones in the film Baby Driver. He's the African American man that's like his roommate, and he really is hard of hearing. And then I believe he's going to be in the next Avatar.
Okay.
And then the other one was just the character of the main lead in Shape of Water. Isn't she hard of hearing in it?
Yes. Yes.
It's just really cool that it's like part of the narrative now, and it's becoming a little, it's becoming a great tool for storytelling. But like also in a King Kong and Godzilla, I think the little kid is like giving sign language to Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if she's hard of, but anyway, so I just think it's it's very cinematic, and it's also awesome if you can cast for that, accurately.
And it's its own, I mean, it's literally its own language, sign language. And I think that's a new cinematic language too, is how do we tell that story? And I love the way that in Sound of Metal, I think I talked about it when we were kind of going over it, but the way they use that computer system when they were speaking, kind of that voice text thing, I thought that was just to see that and be in that world. The filmmakers and the performers all did a great job of making you feel like this is a real. I loved all the stuff with the kids and the teacher, the way she was speaking to him. It was like a student. It wasn't, oh, he's this guy's close to me in age. It was like, no, she does like the thing with his voice, like you can't say anything. So yeah, I really appreciated this film, and I'm glad you kind of pushed me to see it quicker than I might have. I knew I probably would have gotten to it eventually, but it was definitely a good watch and a great recommendation by you.
It's a trip too, because you look at the poster and he's like, he's drumming, he's like in it, but we get that for like 15 minutes tops.
Yeah.
We never really see him in a metal environment again. That's a frustrating scene when he's drumming so loud. He's just damaging his ears more, and he's just doing it. He's like frustrated by it. Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, we've referenced these movies so much. The Wrestler, The Red Shoes, those were a little bit more extreme, but how far are you willing to go to do the thing that you love if it's going to harm you in some way, or whatever else the result is. So, and Olivia Cooke, who played his love interest, also did a great job as well. That was a tough role to kind of balance out, but that's cool. We both had it at number 8.
Yeah, this may happen again. I think. Elyusha, what is your number 7?
My number 7 film. the executive producer of the film said it's more of an experience than a film, and that's something that I agree with wholeheartedly. That it's not a traditional three act structure, going through all the moments that you expect. It's a lot more about experiencing what the main character is going through and using kind of visual cues and things like that. And of course, everyone's going to talk about the opening, the 24-minute shot in the film. But my number 7 is Pieces of a Woman. I had as I really, really love this film. And I mentioned kind of it taps into that world of Manchester by the Sea, just depressing as hell when you talk about just the storyline of this film where this woman has the baby, it's born and it dies, and then what happens after that. And I love the way they used kind of the different seasons to match what the character is going through, the emotional cues. Great performance by Vanessa Kirby. She should be getting all the recognition that she deserves.
Yeah.
Ellen Burstyn, one of my favorite actresses. I'll just quote James North. We see a lot of Shia LaBeouf in this film. So yeah, we talked about it a lot in our previous one of our previous ones, but yeah, Scorsese was the executive producer, and he saw the film and he said, "This is an experience. The movie is not like a traditional film," and it's based on the writer's own experience going through this. And her husband is the director of the film, and at one point, he told her, "Why don't you just write a journal about how you're feeling and going through it?" And that journal evolved into a script. That script evolved into a film, and then he directed it. But it's really coming from her heart. And even the ending, we talked about that as well. And Kata Weber is the writer. Cornel Mundruczko, I think, is the name of they're Hungarian, I think. So I apologize, I'm not Hungarian, but great performances. I mean, great performances, great visuals. You can't ask for more when you talk about just so many things to stimulate you in the film. Even that scene at the end where they're in the court and you hear the heartbeat, that creativity, that 24-minute long take. Yeah, that's kind of the highlight of the film. But I think a lot of people, because you peak so high in what happens at the end of that 24 minutes, people expect to see another climax. But the movie is about the aftershock of that event. It's not about outdoing because you don't want to be comparing things, but that's one of the toughest things that anyone's going to ever go through. And I think the film really shows the evolution of her character well. And there's a lot of layers in there. We talked about apples, and we talked about the ending of, real, imagined, where is it coming from? The bridge being built, of course, very metaphorical, but very heavy-handed, very obvious in terms of what's going on. But yeah, I think it's from a screenplay standpoint, from a visual standpoint, from performances, from the shots that I remember, this one really stood out to me.
Cool, man. I don't know if it's because I'm like 2 months out from having a kid, but
You don't want to revisit that one anytime soon.
It's heavy. It was a really that was a really emotional film to watch. That was like just stressful. I see a really good first, second, third act structure though, and I don't think the best scene was just in the beginning like that. I think the 24-minute sequence is incredible, but I was equally engaged the entire film. And then when we get to the courtroom scene, the sound design really stands out. But when she I don't know if we're just getting into heavy spoilers. Yeah, we just tell anyway. When she forgives her and talks about it and says she did her best and all that stuff, it's a heavy scene, and it was a really rewarding third act for her to we grieved with her, and she reflected. She had empathy for this doctor. Yeah, it was gnarly. And then the scene that does stand out to me, which is just many scenes stood out to me, but the White Stripes conversation in the living room is just so odd. And then the Safdie brother, if you look through the window, I feel like he looks at camera as they cut on it. Are we still rolling at this part? That's cool. I'm really stoked it made your top 10. It makes me feel like we will cover a lot of films now, or you know what I mean? We're not going to have just the same,
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing, is that sometimes we'll overlap, maybe exactly like Sound of Metal. Sometimes we have things that
Yeah.
you have higher up or I have lower or maybe not even in there. But this one, again, the 24-minute take is awesome. And the way that they constructed it was really amazing. Anyone that's just a fan of cinematography, the 2-minute intervals that the director tried to kind of create the ballet of movement with these three, 2, 3 characters, how it begins and how it ends with kind of her uh, feeling like she is not her water is about to break, and then ending on the ambulance where you kind of get that 24 minutes of going through this in real time. And I said this when we were talking about it. I used to think that the birth scene in Children of Men was the most realistic I had seen. It's like 3-minute single take,
I'm with
and
you.
the baby comes out, and it's all digital, but it's done really well, especially for a 15-year-old film. Then when I saw this, I said, can't imagine any movie, unless you go really crazy, is going to ever be able to top the way how raw this is. And of course, I've never been in a room like that. I've never witnessed a childbirth, so I don't know. But I felt like it captured that tension, the unease, and then where it ends up just feels, and that was 40 pages of the script. Big chunk of it was
Yeah.
coming from that and just the action. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great stimulating moments, performances. So again, is it a movie for everybody? No, it is a heavy film. It does deal with grief, but it is something in terms of miscarriage that a lot of women sometimes feel shame about. And I think this film gives women and gives a voice, at least in Kata Weber's case, of being able to express that, getting through it. And it's not shameful. It's unfortunately, it's part of life. And I'm sure everybody knows somebody out there that has gone through a miscarriage. And you just imagine how difficult it is at any stage. I mean, this is the worst because there's a birth and then a death. But at any stage, I think for the psychological damage, I really think that's the most difficult thing, is just giving birth. I think forget about that. But this film just really stood out to me. So I had it as my 7.
Heavy, man. That's really cool. Yeah, I agree on all the things you said. My number 7 is directed by George C. Wolfe. The screenplay is by Ruben Santiago Hudson. This is based off the play written by August Wilson. My number 7 is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I thought this was like, it's pretty rare a film. I'm like, oh, we could add more to it and it could be longer. I'm always kind of like, good length, good cut. I'm always kind of satisfied with it. I wouldn't have, minded 10 or 15 more minutes of these characters and how they talked to each other and how they showed up and looked, and unrecognizable Viola Davis. You really stood out or pointed out the intro and how we go into the tooth, the edits, the performances. I was listening to the music for like weeks after watching the film, and just like a fun kind of filthy film in a way, and like you feel the heat, you feel yourself in the room, you feel the temperature. I loved that she kind of, we still deal with racism, but they still addressed her power and she didn't put up with shit. And she's like, I want my Coke, send my Coke. I like that she played it like they know what they're doing. They can, she really drew the line and was a really strong character. And then of course, Chadwick Boseman's performance and everyone in the film though was on point. Yeah. And then like that ending is a dark ending. Like, yeah, a dark ending. And like that's another fun thing where you can make a film where it's a drama, it's a play, and then we have a scene like that you can't really pull off as well in a play performance. That's something you have to do with a narrative. And then it's like boom, horror film. That's a horror film for me, that final scene. It's terrible, terribly disrespectful and just awful. And yeah, good movie though. I really love that film.
It's funny you mentioned the end being like a horror film, because the opening starts out like a horror film. You know what I mean? With them running, it
Correct.
looks like we talked about how it's like they're running away from something, right? In this era, you think maybe it's racism or they're being attacked, but
Correct.
they're actually running to see this performance. So it's presented in a kind of a horror way, but it's actually to something happy. The end of the film, he's singing and he's all really happy, but
Yeah.
it feels like a horror movie. So I think that flip, you like bookends, we always talk about it, first
Yeah,
last shot.
yeah,
That was really cool, the way that they were able to, maybe cool is not the best word, but I thought it was very effective,
yeah,
the way that they were sophisticated, the way they were able to do that.
yeah,
And it's like Denzel said, when I saw an interview, he said, the times have changed, but the pain hasn't, in terms of what African Americans, blacks are going through in the country. And even just the idea, like you said, of just music rights, ownership, all that kind of stuff, it's still a problem today. It's not even strictly to black artists. I mentioned Taylor Swift was going through this with where her catalog was purchased by somebody, and then she was trying to get the rights back because that's her art. So it's tough because some of these artists become so big that it's so commercial that people want a piece of that song because the song becomes so iconic. So um, it was very theatrical. The blocking, the performances, of course, Chadwick Boseman. I think he'll definitely win the Oscar, I think, for this performance. And great actor. Really, obviously, nothing but sad to someone so young to have to leave this world at an early age and had so much left to do. He's just starting out.
yeah,
Not to say that if he was older, it was okay, but when you see somebody that's that talented, you go, this person can do so many great things. But a great, final film to do, and a great mark to leave in terms of his performance. And you mentioned this too, is, some of those lines that he says when he gets really emotional, it's pretty heavy because we all know what happened and the way he's speaking. And now that we know the state that he was in with going through cancer, you can feel that frailty in his voice, and you feel that, and you go, okay. But he put everything out there. I'm with you a little bit too in terms of, I felt like there could be more. You know what I mean?
yeah,
10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I thought Viola Davis was awesome in this role. The way she put on weight, the way she carried herself, the tooth, the opening. It was definitely one that's worth checking out. I think more people need to see it. It kind of started out with attention, then kind of went under the radar. But if people haven't seen it, it's on Netflix.
yep. It is on Netflix. Yeah, that's my number 7.
Good choice. Good choice. I always give love to documentaries. I know you don't include them in yours.
I have 3 documentaries I want to talk about.
Yeah,
And
and this is one you're going to talk about, I know, because we both really love this film.
yeah,
I think every list I do, I always include. I just love that genre and what it's become over the years, how it's evolved, and I think this film does it in a really creative way in terms of mixing realism, surrealism, traditional documentary, experimental. Kirsten Johnson's Dick Johnson is Dead.
yeah,
I had that as my number 6.
yeah,
And her background is she was a cinematographer for films like Citizen 4, Fahrenheit 9/11, working with Michael Moore. And she did another really great film called Camera Person that I highly recommend. If anybody enjoyed Dick Johnson is Dead, check out Camera Person. It's on Criterion. And I just think that this is such a unique film. She said that, and basically the story is, it's not even really a story, but it's just the idea of keeping her father alive through cinema and killing him over and over again in different ways. And I thought it's just beautifully done. And we all, at some point, unfortunately, this is the way we are as humans. We think about our own death. How do we want to go out? How do we want to be remembered? Who are going to be the people that we speak to in the final days of our living? So, excuse me, I just love that they showed, stunts, visual effects, the whole, like we talked about with the makeup of him being, okay, you're going to go here. So it's very much showing you the filmmaking process. And I thought that was really great in terms of the staging, and just a little bit of a commentary on filmmaking in general, like movies about making movies. I'm always in on. So I just really appreciated this film, and I loved the mix of styles. And it's hard to do, like we just talked about with other films that try to do the same thing, that try to mix a bunch of different things together. But this one, I think, was really stood out to me as of the documentaries this year. I have other ones. I'll mention it when we get into, because I know we're going to overlap, because I know there's a couple that but I'll say one that I know it's probably not on your list It's the Once Were Brothers, the Robbie Robertson one about the band.
I gotta watch it still.
Yeah, check that one out. That was really, really well done. I'm a big fan of the band, and it does a really great job of getting into that. And then the one that was on ESPN about Bruce Lee, it's called Be Water.
Okay.
That one was pretty well done. I've seen a lot on Bruce Lee and all that, so it covers things that I've already seen before, but I just wanted to highlight that. And then another one, which I think we'll probably both talk about together, but this one for me at number 6, Dick Johnson Is Dead, Kirsten Johnson. I think it should be winning the best documentary Oscar this year, but God knows what they're doing. But I know you enjoyed this film as well.
It's such a good movie. It seems extremely therapeutic for both of them, daughter and father. It seems like something they can both have forever. And the scene that like I play in my head every once in a while, of a scene that just really stayed with me, is the wide shot they give you. First, they give you like the coverage of him, of the best friend looking at him inside, inside of his grave, right? And he's right inside of the coffin. And then they give you this wide shot, and you could see that after that moment of his buddy looking at him, that his best friend's dead or pretending to be dead, he's bawling in the corner. Mm-hmm. And just that scene in those like 15-20 seconds of the film really stayed with me. Yeah, it's heavy, man. It's like a really heavy subject matter,
But that's the beautiful thing about filmmaking, is that you can tap into all that, and it becomes therapy. It becomes very therapeutic. And making a film with your father, making a film with your mother, or someone that you love, it's not an easy thing to do. And I feel like she kept it really effective. She kept it funny. And then at the end, you think he has perhaps maybe passed away. And then, as you progress, you learn, I won't say what happens at the end, but you kind of, things unravel. But I just loved the approach. And I think, again, documentaries, we call this kind of the golden age, because a lot of people now are turning to documentaries. And a lot of it has to do with documentaries taking on a narrative approach, where it has those same kind of villain, hero, character arcs that are placed in there. So people are connecting to it more. And that's become a place where, Amazon, Netflix, documentaries about a serial killer or whatever, a certain event, a musician, a politician, whatever, have done really, really well over the years. And I'm happy to see that, because I think it should be supported in terms of more and more documentaries being made. But this one of this year, and there was a couple of really good ones, but this one, I think I loved everything about it.
We're going to cover the documentaries later in a bit.
We can talk about it now, because I don't think, do you have any documentaries on your 10? No, right? So yeah, let's toss in whatever else you have, if you have something that you want.
Of course, Death of Dick Johnson. Life is a Planet is one that was on my list.
Yeah.
It's our guy that's done Planet Earth and Discovery Channel, and he's done this job for his entire life. David Attenborough, I believe is his name.
I'm just going to modify it. David Attenborough.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. It's like his reflection on his career, and it's also him discussing where he thinks we're going based on what he's seen over a reflection of each decade, and what we're on track of what our future is. And just like Death of Dick Johnson, we talk about death, but we also talk about like our kids, and what kind of planet are they going to be living on. And it's very, very serious, the subject matter. The other one, do you count Social Dilemma as a documentary?
I think it's I know there's some reenactments in it. It is presented as a documentary. So yeah, I thought you would talk about that one.
I think it's cool. I think it's worth talking about, especially if you're someone that needs proper balance of how much time are you spending on social media, how much time are you spending on your phone. I think it's worth checking out and just having a reflection of yourself, and same with like Life is a Planet. Do you litter? Do you recycle? How much do you consume? I think all of them are good lessons to kind of check yourself, not you, I'm talking about to anybody.
I'm the opposite. Me, I'm not big on technology and phones. I don't know how to use it. I don't, and I get in a lot of trouble with loved ones because I don't always answer my phone, or I don't check my phone, or things like that. But you can ask a lot of people that know me very well. I don't care to, if you took my phone, like if I leave my phone at home, I don't care. But people, if they leave, oh my God, this, again, everyone's got different priorities. I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
if you got kids, all that, that's different. But yeah, the documentary kind of highlighted a lot of the things that I already knew or have understood just from my own education. But it was entertaining. There's a lot of great things that they include in there.
The last one is I just want to make sure I say it correctly. I want to make sure I could say the filmmaker's name, but this is a 2019 film, but it was released in 2020. This film is about mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah.
The film is called Fantastic Fungi, and the filmmaker, his name is Louis Schwartzberg. But the guy I want to talk about is he's doing things for like the Grateful Dead right now. He's going around the world. He's sharing his story. Oh, come on. John Stamets is his name, and he is he's killing it. He's sharing what mushrooms can do for you, what they could do to help with sicknesses or diseases, and they have the science to kind of back it up. We have like some people have fat cells in their body, and it tells them to eat more than they should. They do tests where if you do a microdose of psychedelics, it helps rearrange things in your brain of things that you could potentially be kind of addicted to, and it kind of like rechecks everything as far as healthy habits and killing some of those fat cells. Like there's all kinds of really cool things that help with habits and triggers, and obviously psychedelics shouldn't be abused, but I think there's a lot of things that it comes from the earth. It's like there's maybe a reason why it's there, and I do believe it's a tool, and I think it's like if you're into psychedelics, it's really well done in that way. But if you have no idea about psychedelics and you want to know a little bit more, I think it's a really appropriate one to check out.
I remember when you watched it, you had a lot of good things to say about it. I'm not really as well versed in that world. I've never taken anything, but I've seen Enter the Void, so I guess I've been through a little bit, or I've seen movies where characters take some kind of psychedelic, Fear and Loathing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's great that you had a chance to see it and can talk about it and promote it. Netflix, right? Is that where it's on?
I had to originally, I was like leaving the link in my bio on my Instagram because you had to watch it on a website, and then it's done so well you can now rent it, or it's free on Amazon Prime. But nice. It did really well. It had a good run, and they got Brie Larson to narrate it, and it was really well put together. I was really impressed with it. And Kendra goes to what did she do? She went to go get a massage, and she came back and she's like telling me about this massage therapist that was talking about this documentary and John Stamets and all this shit. And she's like, I think I'm going to watch it now. And I'm like, now you're going to watch it now that she heard me bitching about it, and now she's opened. Anyway, yeah, I was teasing her.
She doesn't trust your recommendation.
Yeah, I'm just a guy that watches a film here and there. But it is really well done. On top of everything, like if you have no interest in mushrooms, it's a really well done documentary.
Yeah. That's the other thing too, is it's like if you watch a documentary about a serial killer, you don't have to be a killer to appreciate it. You know what I mean? You can learn about things. And I don't know a lot about that world, but I would love to see the perspectives, the studies, all the different things that go into it. So I have to add that one to my never ending list, but
yeah. My DVD stack of like movies I will watch is like, I gotta do like one for the podcast, one that I'm just supposed to watch, and then like one for me. And then it just slowly becomes like those other ones get pushed aside. Okay. Am I on my number 6?
One other documentary I just want to mention, because
sorry, please. Yeah.
Just I'm only going to say the name of the film because I think you might have seen it. So we'll talk about it another time. But David Arquette is dead.
I watched it today.
Okay. So I'll just say it. I'm not saying it's one of the great documentaries of the year, but we'll talk about it.
Check it. Yeah. Okay. I definitely.
It's very entertaining.
It is, and it should be brought up, and it was well done. It's not abusing length. It's 90 minutes. You're in and you're out. I agree. It was better than I thought it. Like, I judged it.
It's fun. It's there's a lot of great moments in there, but I just wanted to mention it because that one probably doesn't get as much recognition because of the subject matter. But I thought there was a lot of fun things in there. But since you saw it recently, it'll be fun to talk about.
I really dig that he like met a guy and then he gave him tickets and then they're friends. They're like wrestling in the hotel room and like he was really cool. David Arquette was really cool in that movie. It was nice to get like a peek behind the curtain.
And what you see in that film is who he is. I've met him a few times.
Oh, cool.
And he's a really cool guy, down to earth, really nice. And I really like that opening. I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, but just his career path, of that photo where it shows him with all the up and coming stars of Benicio del Toro, Matthew McConaughey, like all these guys that went on to become these legendary Oscar winners. And he's among them, but kind of went a different path. But one thing I want people to know is that David Arquette is one of the most successful businessmen in Hollywood. He owns some of the most talked about clubs and restaurants in the city, like some of the hardest places to get into that I've been in, thanks to him. I want to thank him for that. One of them is a place called Bootsy Bellows in Hollywood. I'm going to plug them. Bootsy Bellows. And the name of the club, the only reason I'm saying is that David Arquette's mom, I believe, was a burlesque dancer, and her nickname was Bootsy Bellows. So he named it after her. Now, again, we're talking pre-coronavirus. We don't think that some of these places may not exist anymore. But I just wanted to say that he may not have had a successful career as winning Oscars, but outside of film and entertainment and business, he's done really well. And I think I would love to see more about him on that angle. But anyway, for me, number 6, Dick Johnson is dead. But I'm also glad we talked about some other good documentaries of 2020.
Reeling us back. Good. Very good. My number 6, I don't know if you've watched yet. I don't think so.
Not yet.
My number 6 is we talk about father-son filmmakers. This son got to make a film. I think out of all of the ones that I could, no. There's another one that I would love to see on the big screen. In my top 10, this is a film I really would have loved to have seen in a movie theater that would have added a lot more to it. I did my best. We put it on in the living room, kind of hit the lights, but overall, this was designed to see on a big screen. I see this doing really well with a double feature bill with a film like Mandy. My number 6 is Possessor.
Oh yeah, okay. No, I haven't seen that one.
This is like a you see, like, I don't know why this is my example, but like, Mr. and Mrs. Smith or like True Lies, and it's these like spy cutesy, do we know my wife is undercover, do we know she does these things. This is a really raw way to tell this kind of story, and it's a sci-fi, it's a thriller, but it's a horror film, and that last 10 or 15 minutes is fucked up. And the makeup design or the VFX and whatever they do when they do these like transformation sequences are incredible. It's got like a House of Wax feel and how they're doing the molding, but I was just like really impressed by everything. Like from a technical aspect of like, how did they do this? And the color palette and the pacing, really good film. It's one too where it's like maybe someone's out on the couch in the living room and they decide to like check their phone during the movie and shit like that. I would love for people to have to put their phones away and like lock into this film and like get lost in this movie. Yeah, I can't, I really enjoyed it for a horror film. A lot of the scenes, the way they do violence stood out to me. Sean, what's his name? Sean from Sean Bean. Sean Bean's in it. And as usual, he gets annihilated, brutally murdered. But it's just like a really, the ending is super dark and how they do it. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts when you see it.
Can you talk more about the father and son connection?
David Cronenberg, thank you. David Cronenberg, filmmaker, Videodrome, The Fly, of course.
History of Violence, Easter Promises, Naked.
Yeah. And then to have his son, first you have a kid, he becomes an adult, he grows up watching your films. Then he's like, okay, Dad, hold my my sippy cup. Check this out. I don't know what he's doing, but
I love seeing things like that because David Cronenberg was never, I mean, maybe The Fly was his only movie that was a huge kind of commercial hit where they did a sequel, but
yeah,
he was kind of in this world of just doing these smaller films and kind of more art house or more risky type things. So it's cool to see what maybe to see what his son ends up doing. Is he stay in that same wheelhouse of kind of these smaller art house films, or does he do the next Ghostbusters after this? You know, like we talked about with Chloe Zhao as well. So yeah, I haven't seen it. I know you've talked a lot of times telling me like, hey, check this out, check this out. As soon as it's available somehow, I'll definitely. I mean, I know it's available probably to rent, but I definitely want to see it, especially if you have it so high up.
it'll be a free rental. It'll be a Prime free rental soon. It's been out for a bit, but that, and it's not in my top 10, but for horror this year, it was some really good films for horror. His House, like
Yeah,
it's like I think it's so important no matter what kind of budget you have with your VFX. Horror has always been known to maybe be like kind of like raunchy teen, you know, or as far as like the dynamic and the casting or the silliness of it. Films like this should be nominated and acknowledged at a really high level, you know, among the mix of the top films of the year.
right.
When you have performances like this, it should just be counted. You know, going back to like a Hereditary with Toni Collette or something, like they should be acknowledged for these performances. You know,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, 5. My number 5 is the ending of this film is really what stood out to me the most because you know the first time I saw it, I heard the speech from A Beautiful Mind, and
Sick.
we already talked about it. I was trying to set it up, but I'll save the time. Thinking of ending things, I had as my number 5, written, directed, produced by Charlie Kaufman from the mind of Charlie Kaufman, starring Jesse Buckley, Jesse Plemons. We got Toni Collette, we got David Thewlis as the parents. You know, we just mentioned it earlier, so I won't get into too
Cool.
much.
What do you think?
But same thing that we talked about in terms of the different layers in this film, the self-reflexivity, being aware you're watching a film, like that whole directed by Robert Zemeckis at the end of that fake film that they do. I was dying laughing because I told my brother to watch this as well, and he said he was laughing so hard because it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it does.
And I guess he said he never even asked Robert Zemeckis about it. He just said he was going through a bunch of directors that wouldn't fit that type of movie because he said it was more of like a Nancy Meyers, you know, like Sleepless in Seattle type film. He said, wouldn't it be funny because he does all these high concept, you know, Back to the Future, Polar Express, motion capture, that we say it's directed by him. So I thought that was really funny. But all those details in there. In fact, if I remember correctly, they're in his room at one point. You see a DVD for A Beautiful Mind of
Okay.
the character.
Okay.
You see a Pauline Kael book in there. You
Cool.
see all these because it's kind of like you said when you introduced it. It's all these things that form us as a person. You know what I mean? And there's a little bit of Fight Club. There's a little bit of Psycho in there in terms of personalities and how they affect you. And I think there was a quote that Kaufman said. I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I got it right. But he said, this movie is dealing with somebody's experience of absorbing things that they see and how they become the part of his psyche. So it's like everything that we are formed by what's around us in terms of art, right? We get inspired by, you have, you know, tattoos from different films that are on your body. I have posters on my wall from films, and we have memorabilia and books and thousands of DVDs that form our, you know, basically who we are. And it's a tough film to absorb all in one sitting because there's so many different elements going on. But I think a lot of those things, even on my first viewing, like we talked about the Beautiful Mind moment, the references to Oklahoma, the mix of the genres, like we said, anything that can reference Woman Under the Influence and John Cassavetes and all that kind of stuff. And I think that Jessie Buckley actually performed it like Pauline Kael. If I remember correctly, she said she studied the way that she spoke and kind of, you know, saw the documentary and wanted to kind of match that. So I love the layers. I love the genre mixing. I love the performances. I just think it's a really great film, but I know a lot of people find it, we said, pretentious, or they think it's trying to be more sophisticated than it is. But there's nothing wrong with putting in an effort, putting in layers, putting in clues that you may not get on the first try. Scorsese put out that article about Mother with respect to Aronofsky, saying that you don't have to get everything in one viewing. You don't have to know everything A to Z. It's okay to revisit a film. How many films have I seen that I show in my classes? I've seen them like 80 to 100 times, not exaggerating, up to that number. And almost every time I see something new. And these are films that are not as complex as this. So it's a Netflix film. Again, if you like Charlie Kaufman, if you like, adaptation or Synecdoche, New York, or all that kind of stuff. I never saw Anomalisa. Did you ever see that one? That was his stop motion, like weird rated R film, which of course he would have fun with that. But I'm just a big fan of him kind of stepping out that box and not doing anything that's always the way that we expect it. Like adaptation, I thought was really fun, the way that it was presented. And he's just a really unique mind. I remember in trailers they used to say, from the mind of Charlie Kaufman. That was like a way, being John Malkovich and all these things, is he just had such a unique perspective. And I think this film is not getting a lot of awards attention, but that doesn't always dictate what's good or bad, as we know. So this one, I know you had it on your list, so we talked about it. But for me, number 5, I'm thinking of Ending Things.
Yeah. No, it's a cool film. And I mean, Jesse Plemons is getting to work with like legends. His portfolio is just really unique. It's awesome.
He's been on fire. I mean, whoever his agent is, he's doing his job. He's getting him in Scorsese films and this and all that. Yeah.
Well, he also like the Breaking Bad thing's huge. And then it was so funny when I was talking, because he's in Judas and the Black Messiah, right? And I was talking with Hunter about it, and he's like, "Is that the guy from Like Mike?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's like the bully to Bow Wow." And I'm like, "I don't know. Let me see." And it was pretty funny. He's the bully.
Yeah, he's got one of those faces that you've probably seen something with him in it. But he's picking up a lot of momentum, and I thought he was great in Judas and the Black Messiah. I mean, that was a really great performance. I mean, the whole film. But yeah, I hope he gets more parts. He's got a really unique look. I think he can pull off a lot of different types of roles. He's going to be in the new Scorsese one, The Killers of the Flower Moon. So that'll be cool to see kind of how his career progresses. And his wife is Kirsten Dunst, so it's kind of a movie family. So that's cool to see. So yeah, I know we already talked about it, but for me, 5, I'm thinking of Ending Things.
I look forward to when he gets a Marvel film and he
yeah, the Chris Pratt route, where you start off doing kind of like silly stuff, and then all of a sudden, or Kumail, you just become like this.
Get them on the HGH and all that good stuff.
Worked for Ryan Reynolds, man. He was doing silly stuff. Van Wilder. Yeah. All of a sudden, look at him, Deadpool, and
you're right. And wait, okay. My number 5. He's on your Mount Rushmore filmmakers. This is the second one on my top 10 list that I wish I saw on a big screen. Out of the mix. This film was like a great experience, and this was just a veteran cast film. Spike Lee, Five Bloods is my number 5. To not cast the younger actors for the flashback scenes, to have Delroy Lindo kind of chew us out, to show a scene of violence when a character walks onto a mine and sees. It's been a while since something kind of maybe like Possessor kind of gets there with violence, but in this story where I care so much about the character and it happens to them, it was very shocking. It was just like kind of crazy. The use of music I thought was really important. And they're just constantly using Marvin Gaye, and it's on in the background, and then they'd be like singing it and it's in sync with the song. There was a really fun awareness that the filmmaker had with his audience in this movie. And then of course Chadwick Boseman's performance, really stood out. And I like the little homage in the respect to Apocalypse Now at the club scenes. I kind of kept having to trip out and rewind it just to make sure I was seeing it and if there was that pattern. But the way that they hug and then cut it again and they hug again,
Yeah.
I was just like, this is dope. This is like a really cool intention on everything. Every little detail is there on the intention. I really enjoyed this film. I had like one small issue with it, and which is so minor. It's just how they found it, how they
Mhm.
found the goal. I just thought was kind of silly, but everything else, it's like it's a great film, and then a really kind of wild third act. Where you don't know what kind of film we're in and where it's gonna go, and then it's fun. I'm sure you're gonna touch on it and bring it up soon, or it'll come up.
Maybe. Yeah. But just,
So,
for me, Delroy Lindo, been a huge fan of his. Everything. I mean, he's just one of those guys going to Malcolm X,
yeah.
Gone in 60 Seconds. I don't care what it is.
Mhm.
He's always going to bring, something in there. And I just feel like, was it Gone in 60 Seconds or Fast and Furious?
No, it's
Gone in
gone in
60
60
Seconds, right?
seconds.
Yeah.
He's great in it. He's
Yeah.
great.
I just really love him as an actor. And I'm not seeing it, but I really thought that his awards recognition should be a lot more in terms of best actor. I mean, he pours his heart and soul. That one monologue where he breaks the fourth wall. Spike Lee said that he wrote that knowing that Delroy could pull that off. And he said that I could have done a 5-page monologue and he could have done it because he's that good. And I love the ensemble cast. I love how the five Bloods are named after the Temptations. So you have, Paul, Melvin, Otis, Eddie, and David. They're the five Temptations, and those are the names that they use. And then Norman, who's the other character, was the main Temptations kind of song producer and writer for Motown. So it's kind of cool the way that he loves music, he loves history, but he also loves how to link history to present day as well, bringing in things that are going on today. And obviously the Trump references are there. It's not anything subtle. The characters talk about it. We see the hat and all that. But did you watch the film till the end credits by any chance?
It's been so long since I've seen it. If you tell me, I'll tell you if I remember or not, or watched it or not. You know what I mean? I can't remember.
Do you remember? Did you see where the whole crew is sitting together at the end of the movie?
No, it's a group shot.
And when you get a chance, check it out. If I can find it, we can put a clip of it here. But
Done.
um, just yeah, I think you'll have fun with that because you appreciate that kind of stuff of kind
Oh
of
yeah.
crew coming together and then they say
Oh,
something, and I think it's really funny. But
it's awesome.
yeah, I feel like Spike has become such a great director over the years, but he's really maintained similar things in terms of he likes to talk about race and culture and society. And the film might change, but his message kind of remains the same of there's a lot of work to do, right? So Do the Right Thing came out 1989, 31 years later. We're 32 years later, we're looking and saying, has anything really changed? And it's not that much. And it's hard to have a movie that resonates for 30 plus years to make any piece of art that still has relevance. But I just thought it was really, really well done. And originally, I don't know if you know, but this film was supposed to be like a Disney movie. It was supposed to be like old Vietnam veterans trying to find gold, like really kind of light type of thing.
It's based off of that treasure film back in the day, right?
Treasure of Sierra Madre,
Yeah.
in that same realm, but not more of like a lighter,
Right.
like these movies like Sahara or Hidalgo. Remember those Disney films where it's kind of like these.
Yeah.
And then, if I remember correctly, Oliver Stone was about to direct it. Like he tried to bring his own, obviously his
What?
Vietnam background.
Yeah.
Then it didn't work out, and then Spike got a hold of it, and he said, "We're going to flip it. Make it more of an African American point of view." And he said that actually he and the co-writer, I think it's Kevin Wilmot, they're both film professors, and they said that really helped them to generate the story because they kind of had a good understanding of where to take it. And I thought that was just cool to see two film professors write a film together.
Yeah,
And
it's awesome.
yeah, so I thought that was a cool thing.
And then also he did a kind of a musical Spike Lee this year, American Utopia, that I also recommend. And then last night I just finished his masterclass, Spike Lee's.
Good.
he's so just, like he's so inspiring, and like he like laughs. He's like, you think you're gonna do that? You're gonna try to pull it off like that? And he just starts laughing at you, and like I enjoy those a lot. It's like a director's commentary where like the narcissist in me is like, he's talking to me right now, only Spike's hanging out with me. That's my number 5.
Great choice. My number 4 is another one that you saw before me and really highly recommended and suggested. And it was funny because the film that this filmmaker did previously, I recommended to you highly, and you've had a good response to it. And then this one, his film after that, you recommended to me, and I had a good response. But Another Round, number 4, I had for.
Yeah, I forgot about this film doing our list.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and talk about it.
Pause and come back tomorrow and do it again.
No. I got it.
You can, these are free flowing. You can modify your list.
You keep your thing. Please tell me about Another Round.
While I'm speaking, you can think of where you would place it, and we can always don't worry about it. Nothing is set in stone. But Thomas Vinterberg, starring Mads Mikkelsen, love Mads, always brings something. But the film is basically a study of drinking alcohol. What are the effects that it has on you? And they cite this idea of you're born being below a certain alcohol level, and that kind of hinders your performance in life. And you need to be at whatever it is, like 0.05 blood alcohol level, and that elevates your thinking. That they say some of the great things in history have come from people being drunk, and the film really taps into it. But I just love some of the, how basic the graphics were when they would show you something, a text message. We always think we got to replicate how it really is, but all you do is just put up the text, the number, and that's all we need as an audience. But it reminded me of movies like Limitless, Super Size Me, these movies, Lucy, things like that, where it's like unlocking something in your brain and what happens if you get to that level. And I just felt like the film did a really great job of bringing all these elements together. And I'm not a drinker, but we always hear about this. We talked about this too. Oh, they say it's great to have at least 1 glass of red wine per day. It's helpful for your heart. And then 2 years later, they say 1 glass of red wine per day is going to kill you. Don't drink it ever again. Or coffee is great in the morning. It's, boosts you. And then a year later, if you have coffee too much, you're going to have a heart attack. And I just love these concepts of people testing, well, what is the effect of these substances on your body? And that goes back to even things like you said, like mushrooms and things like that. How do these things help you maybe too? Don't think that it necessarily hurts you. But in this case, we kind of see how it all unfolds. I love the use of music, that the meters, the Sissy Strut moment where they're playing the music and dancing together. One of my favorite moments of the year in any film. And even the way the film ends, is he flying or is he falling? And I really love that takeaway. So, and in that the Q&A, Mad said, if 2 drinks are good for you, why not have 4?
Right.
And really the story is kind of, we in our life, we have a very controlled way of living. And Vinterberg wanted to say, what happens if we remove that control and just drink? And obviously we see what unfolds. So great film. Really should get more recognition, but it is getting recognition. I keep saying that for all these, but I think it's getting nominated for international film categories. But I also recommend The Hunt, which was the one I was talking about before that I suggested to you a couple of years back. But for me, number 4, Another Round.
It would have been my number 8, Taking Out No Man Land, probably. Okay. And it would have been it's a quicker on the list before Sound. It's before Sound of Metal, I believe. Okay. I really enjoyed this film. Also, I enjoyed it so much I forgot to put it on the list.
Maybe you didn't like it as much as I thought.
Yeah. I think it's really cool when, let's say someone lives in a bubble and they never travel and they don't really know what it's like on the other side of the world. I think this is a really cool way to look at different lifestyles and cultures and think about how big of a world it is. And you shouldn't judge people. Like, you shouldn't judge someone's style of living, because there's all different kinds of ways to live life. There's some really cool messages in there that I really dug.
Yeah. And
Um,
again, for me, coming from a non-drinking perspective, I thought it was just cool to see that. And
yeah,
also, I love that little montage where you see world leaders and politicians all in a drunk state and what
yeah,
happened from that.
yeah.
Even Vinterberg says that he thinks a lot of the great moments in history were accomplished because everyone was drunk and drinking. So
That's
uh,
awesome.
it was a cool case study. So I thought it was a really, really well done film. Great performance by Mads, as always. And yeah, I just really, really appreciated the film overall.
I saw this trailer today for a movie called Chaos Walking,
Yeah.
and Mads pops up on it like on a horse, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I just was like caught off guard by it. Like he just pops up. He stays busy. That dude stays really busy. And
Does. Yeah, he just replaced Johnny Depp for
the
Fantastic.
Fantastic Beasts.
I that's like we were talking about with Chloe Zhao. I love to have a career, or even like with, we were talking about Ray offline, but to have a career where you can do Chaos Walking in another round, and then do Fantastic Beasts, and then do Valhalla Rising, and then do Casino Royale. It's like, how you can't get better than that. And he's the man. Like every time he does a movie, I get excited to see him on the screen, because even if the film is not great, he'll bring something. He'll bring he just has a unique presence on screen.
Yeah, he's like he's cool. We use that word, we take it for granted, but
Yeah.
he's a cool dude. Like, and he's like got his own little swag and his own vibe, and you could tell he doesn't really give a fuck, which is like really hard to believe at that level he's at. You
Yeah.
know,
And he
um,
did a lot in this film, that the dancing at the end, that's,
loose.
yeah, he get loose is a good word, but really good use of music. I love the way they bookended the music of that song choice, that
Yeah,
Vinterberg said his wife really pushed him to pick that song, that originally he didn't know what it was going to be. But yeah, he puts himself out there in this film in terms of having to do that kind of dancing. You never would have thought, but he pulls it off really well done.
yeah. No, that's cool, man. I agree. I agree. Am I on my number 4?
Yes.
Well, One Night in Miami is my number 4. I don't need to.
We're not doing the riddles anymore.
No, you know it. You know it's coming up.
Mhm.
Um, I obsessed about the ending, the final scene, and the performance of Sam Cooke. And I trip out on how they do it, where it's like this like dolly push in. And we talked about it, how he's like holding himself and he's like flexing his jaw, and he like gives off this like confidence, cocky but emotional, and like knows, he has to kind of hit this note. And then when they land like kind of really tight on his face, he has a tear and he wipes it. And I like rewatch it and I'm like, I think he timed all that. I think that's real. I don't know if they did a VFX and told him to act like you wipe a tear on your right side, but that performance is really powerful. And I watched that ending 10 plus times. And then I also I watched it so many times. I told you I saw the glasses error with the little, which is, the editing was fine, but I saw so many little bits because I started obsessing about it. And then the way Sam Cooke wins back the crowd, it was a really, I really like, that was a fun film. And I know the history isn't accurate, but for someone that was a little behind on that history growing up, it was a nice way to get me interested in these guys again. If I only knew a little bit, like having my mom's album in the car, this was more fun to spend time with their personalities, and kind of see that. I thought it was really well done. And we covered a good amount of it earlier. Yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, if I had it as my number 4, like you did, I wouldn't have had a problem with it.
Yeah, yeah,
These 10 films, I really, a couple, yeah, I appreciate more than others, but it's really well done, and
yeah.
that ending, and a change is going to come. If you were to make me list our 10 favorite songs of all time, that song is probably in there, if
Yeah.
not, in the top 5. So I'm a big Sam Cooke fan, as I know you are as well. And it's tough to get him on screen, and I felt like they did a great job. And he really got those mannerisms down. If you've ever seen Sam Cooke perform, he does all that stuff. He gets into it, his lips, his arms, everything. He puts all of his soul into it. And I think that's why his music still to this day is, I think he's the greatest singer in history, the best voice. If I, again, had to make a list of just artists and singers, number one voice. So yeah, it's a very, very good film. I had it a little bit higher, but I wouldn't have had any problem if I had it at 4 like you did. It's
Yeah.
very, very well done. Great performances, good message. Again, adding a present contemporary element to a historical thing. You know what I mean? Because you can watch that movie and it connects with people today. Even the idea of Ken Powers, where he got the idea, I mentioned it too before, is he was sitting in the writer's room for Star Trek Discovery and saw he was the only Black person in the room. And the film is kind of talking about, sacrificing and kind of putting yourself out there, and how much of yourself do you sacrifice to satisfy someone else,
Yeah.
about identity and things like that. So yeah, really good film. And again, we did spend a lot of time talking about it, but there's a reason why we did, because it was really well done.
Yeah. Um, that was my number 4. One Night in Miami.
Not in Miami. My number 3 film, I know I bought this film because I know you watched it because I told you to. I know I feel a lot more strongly about this film than you do, but I don't mean it in a negative way. I think mainly because of the environment that it takes place in, that I had a good understanding of that world, maybe a little bit better than you had, only because of that. But I still think this is an amazing film, really, really well done, written, directed, produced, and edited by an Australian filmmaker named Kitty Green, and it's The Assistant. Um,
Oh, cool.
I'm a yeah.
Yeah.
Julia Garner. What's that?
It's in my, like, we're gonna talk about films that were really well done and executed. No, I checked this out because of you though. Go on, man.
So Julia Garner is the lead. I think is she from Ozark? Is that where she's from? I don't really know her work too well.
She is incredible in Ozark, and she was great. She was incredible in this also.
Yeah, I know she's been. I always see her pop up on award shows. So, really great job. I mean, the story only takes place in one day. That's what I love about it. But it's kind of the day in the life of her working at this production company. And I've worked at different production companies, and it nails the mood and environment of a lot of places that I've been that maybe weren't the best places to be in terms of kind of giving you the real film industry. Because oftentimes when you get movies about movies, it's like La La Land, it's it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's Mank, it's these really kind of fast paced, this is what it's like to be a filmmaker. But this really strips all that down and tells you, forget about the making of a film and a movie about making movies, but what about being in the office where a lot of this stuff happens. And again, the backdrop of Harvey Weinstein, without saying his name, knowing that it's him.
Yeah.
The monster in this movie is him, and I love the way he's used. I mentioned this to you before. Like Jaws, we don't really get a chance to see him. And in Jaws, we eventually see the shark, but even in this film, just his voice and his presence is enough to kind of, it's like a he's truly a monster in the film. And I love the idea of hiding him, not revealing him, because what's the point of just looking at this person? Just the idea of us knowing what he did is already kind of, whoa, you know what I mean? And this goes to, again, movies like Jaws or in Signs, when we have the first time we see the alien in everyone in the theater. I still remember, you probably remember, if you saw it in theaters, people freaked out because it was building up to that moment, right?
Yeah, is that at the Spanish birthday party?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You still remember it. And as much as M. Night Shyamalan has had a strange career and gone up and down, the moment in that film, I thought he executed it perfectly. And even we talk about Parasite coming up the stairs. That's all we need. Half a second. We don't need to see everything. And I go and tell you about the opposite of A Quiet Place. Within the first 5 minutes, we see the monster. We see the way it looks. Yeah. And it doesn't have the same effectiveness because we already know what it looks like. Because right. What scares you or what scares me in our head is going to be different for everyone. And we're going to create that fear artificially for ourselves. So in terms of the film, the way it depicts, because when we talk about Harvey Weinstein, of course we know about sexual and physical abuse that he did, but there's also a lot of emotional abuse and mistreatment of workers that goes on in the film industry. Harvey Weinstein was not the first or the last person to do anything like this. And unfortunately, he will not be the last person that does that we ever hear about. you're going to, unfortunately, is part of that world. Is every environment like this? Of course not. I've worked at different production companies. It's fun, it's exciting, it's everything you want it to be. I've worked places that are similar to this, where the daily work, you can feel the tension, you can feel just the negative energy. But that's what I really loved about the film, is it captured that mood. And I feel like anyone that's been in that environment, you can relate to it. And even if you haven't, like you have not in that same way, but I'm sure you kind of understood
Yeah.
the pillars that were there and what it meant. So
Yeah.
I thought the shot selection, I think the first 5 to 6 minutes of the film has no dialogue. It's all setting up the world, and I appreciate films like that. So, The Assistant number three, really really love this film from 2020.
We hear his voice, right? Like when she calls
Yes, yes.
him. Yeah. I know the actor, I know his face. But he's like, it's a great voice. It's a great, like, you know, and then to have
It's exactly Weinstein's voice too. It's that raspy, kind of like disgusting monster. He's doing some nasty stuff type thing, and I think that's why I don't know, it nailed it really well for me.
cool, man. Cool. Um, number three.
Yes, sir.
Wow, we're number three.
Cruising.
My number three is directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Um, this is a film about a Korean family that starts a farm in 1980s Arkansas. The cinematographer is Lachlan Milne. The same cinematographer of Stranger Things, Hunt for the Wilder People, Little Monsters, Love and Monsters. Yeah, Minari was my number three. I This is the one that got me emotionally. Really, really good subject matter. Really good arc between the grandson and grandma and their dynamic. At first, they hate each other, and you understand both perspectives of why the boy wouldn't like the grandma, and then their whole arc together as characters. Yeah, I was like a little bit of a mess after this film in a good way. Really a beautiful film, really well done. That's why it was so cool to get to listen to that little Q&A tonight. I can't wait for you to watch this film. I not to like everyone should go and do it with like normal expectations, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to hype it too much for you. I personally like this film more than Parasite. Not to, and I don't know if they're not the same kind of films, but both, like, as far as Korean films go.
Dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
I know. This one I will watch again very soon, and I really enjoyed. And like, there's some fun rules that they play, and like, do you believe this thing or not? And um this filmmaker got to kind of share a story about his upbringing and his life. And so it was fun for him to make such a personal film, or you don't know,
No,
but
well, I haven't seen it, but this is that one film. Of course, there's many more, but that's the one that I felt like I wanted to really complete my list. That's the one that, you know what I mean? But we're never going to be able to see every single thing, but that's one that has been high up, and I can't wait to see it whenever it becomes available. And I've only heard good things, and the fact that you are echoing that just makes me excited to see it more.
as soon as it starts, as soon as you see the boy in the car and like his POV, the way he's looking at his parents in the front seat, you just feel like you're in quality, like you're in such good hands. And then tonight, when I was listening to the producer and the filmmaker, they took some inspiration from Terrence Malick. So you're
Oh,
definitely
so
so you're
so
definitely gonna like, you're gonna feel that. But then he said it already felt so much that I was making a story about my personal life. I never wanted to hold scenes too long. I never wanted to make it feel like I directed the hell out of this scene. He's like, he just wanted you to be among the characters and see this story in this time, and you feel that way. Yeah, man. Like, it was it caught me off guard because Stephen Yang, he's come from doing The Walking Dead now, but after the film Burning in this film,
yeah.
he good for you, dude. Like good, really great choices, and good performance. Everyone involved, the whole cast was great. And then the way they handle some of the stuff near the end is like, tragic but beautiful, and it's just fucked. I was just like, I was a bit of a wreck, man. There's some stuff with the grandma thing that like was very relevant. You know, it was cool. You know, I definitely recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the director is Korean American, but I think Korean cinema in general, whether it's being made in South Korea or here, over the last 20 years has been right up there with, like the influence of the Three Amigos, the Mexican directors, where it's just awards attention, critical success, financial success. Really amazing what's been going on. And this is kind of like a new style of cinema too, is bringing a filmmaker that makes it more personal, where it's a movie that is of kind of being Korean, but being Korean in America and what it means. So again, based on what you've said, I don't know if I'm missing something, but I definitely want to see it, and I can't wait to check out all the things that you've been talking about.
There's a scene they have where the parents are fighting, and the brother and the sister start making paper airplanes.
Mhm.
And on the paper airplanes, they're writing notes to their parents like, stop fighting, love each other. And then from across the room, they're like launching it at the parents. It's just like constantly just very personal, but really well done and executed. And um, like from a filmmaking perspective, also very efficient. They isolated them. There's a performance from who's the coach? Oh, I have it. I wrote it down, so I don't need to. My reference was gonna be who's the coach from Remember the Titans, not Denzel. Will
Oh, Will
Patton.
Patton. Yeah.
Yeah, Will Patton. He was. I found out today was the first person they casted in the film, which is interesting because it's like a Korean cast, right? But they had him for this kind of the role of a friend of the same situation the director's dad had growing up, with this kind of bizarre character, but has a big heart, maybe a little crazy. And it's kind of cool because did you get to see Lovers Rock, the Small Axe?
Hmm.
You know how there's a guy walking carrying a cross?
Yeah.
You get that in this film from Will Patton's character. So it's just interesting that they both came up. And yeah, I think I don't want to hype it too much. Go into it kind of right there. It's very, very good though. Very good.
I've always been a big fan of Will Patton, not just because we share the same birthday, but
Oh,
and that's true. But my family and I just really love his work. Underappreciated. He's one of those guys like Wes Studi, Delroy Lindo, Elias Koteas that I just would love to work with, because I feel like they just great. I mean, he did stuff like Armageddon, where
yeah.
it's big budget. He did The Postman, but um, just a really strong actor. And I'm glad he got casted in this, because he's one of those people again that I'm just like David Strathairn. These guys should be working more and more. If I was in charge of casting, I just bring these actors and actresses. They're so good. So I do remember seeing his name in the film, so I'm glad he has a good role.
They do a good job too of the entire time you're trying to figure out what this character's deal is, and it's just the mystery's really fun, and then the execution's very good too. Yeah, that's my number 3 though. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. My number two is, I'll just say it because we talked about it. Nomadland was my
Wow.
film. Yeah, written, produced, edited as well, and directed by Chloe Zhao. So she also edited the film, which not a
Who
lot
else
of people
did
know.
that this year?
Kitty Green did it for The Assistant.
Who
Who
else
else? Um,
is going to be your number 1?
trying to.
Joshua Trank did it for Capone.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that for number one, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it,
cool though when they edit it. That's pretty
I
crazy.
love that. I don't know why people don't think it can happen more often. Some filmmakers don't want it because they want a new pair of eyes on it,
Right.
but
Wash your hands to it.
um, some have control of it and know exactly what they want. Akira Kurosawa was doing it for most of his films. He was editing as well. So, but we talked about this earlier. I just really love again, let's bring Terrence Malick back in the conversation. The inspired shots, the visual cues, the use of nature, the wide angles, the either low or natural light type shots that we get, the steady cam, the rawness of the performance is obviously just driven by Frances McDormand. Even the ending of the film I love, where she goes back to her home and realizes that she doesn't fit in that traditional house, that she's a nomad, and we get a chance to see that. And just the casting of real people, real nomads interacting with her. It reminded me of, and I brought up Willem Dafoe for a reason. It reminds me a little bit of Florida Project too, where you have the the kind of main actor or actress anchoring, and then you have kind of the non-professionals working off her
Yeah.
because she becomes that conductor. And that's why they remind me of each other, because they both have that versatility. They can do a big film. Frances McDormand was in one of the Transformer films. I don't know if anybody remembers, but she was in that. But then she does Three Billboards and this, and Willem Dafoe, same thing. Spider-Man, he played whatever Green Goblin or whatever it was, and then he does Tommaso and you know what I mean, like Lighthouse. So I just appreciate those types of performances, but they're both real. You believe them in those roles, and I think at one point Chloe Zhao went up to Frances McDormand and said she wanted to cast her son to be in the film, her real life son, and she wanted to put pictures of Joel Cohen in the movie as her dead husband. So the Coen brothers, she's married to one of the Coen brothers. And then Frances McDormand said, "Well, it's not a documentary about me, so I don't want to. I'm cool with making it personal, but not that personal." Because she really, to get into this role, she said she wanted to really test herself, put herself out there, and see, can she be self-sufficient in the same way. Like we said, we have Fern and we have Fran, Frances McDormand. It's kind of like her alter ego, Fern and Fran. What can they do? So um, the actress that plays, I think, her sister in the film is Frances McDormand's real life best friend, like known her whole life, and they put her in the film. And then I think the one scene where she's talking about like those set of plates she got for her college graduation, those are real plates she got from her father, Frances McDormand, that they threw in there. So I love that stuff. I support it wholeheartedly. And this film I had as my one, two. I was going back and forth, but just I'm so glad I got a chance to see it before we did kind of this episode on the top 10 of the year, because I really loved everything about this, and I'm really excited to see where Chloe goes next in this style, poetic neorealism, fictional realism, whatever you want to call it. I really appreciate, and again, the music, Ludovico Einaudi just gives it just another layer.
Yeah. I really like the way they did the best friend. It reminded me of eighth grade when they give the eighth grader like the high school friend, where you think you're gonna deal with like sisters being mean, because the way that like Frances McDormand character is like, well, I introduced them because I knew him first. You almost think like right away we're gonna see like a rivalry and like this competitiveness, but her sister loves her and they have like a really tight relationship. And then I knew the plates were important because we bookend the plates. We start with the plates get broken, then we're getting rid of everything by the end of the film. That was cool, man. It was good to know that about that. It's cool.
Yeah, it's one of those movies I want to watch again and just kind of absorb even more. But I just appreciated the cast, and like the scene where the one guy's talking about his son passing away. It was really something that happened to that guy. When he's sitting there, I don't remember his character name, but when she goes and sits with that younger kid towards the end and talks to him,
The lighter.
yeah, it just, I don't know. You can see that they just told Francis, we're going to follow you around and
Yeah.
just be you and try to absorb into that world. And I think they had always had two cameras. They had one that was on a gimbal or steady cam, and then they had one that was like a handheld, jump into this scene and get out in case anything happened. So I love that style of filmmaking. It sounds easy. You go, oh, camera. It's very, very difficult, like that guerrilla. But if you plan right, if you know what you want to do, and Chloe with the writer, I think kind of tapped into it already in her previous film as well. So I think she was able to kind of take it on in a more sophisticated way. And it's been getting a lot of attention awards wise. I think Frances McDormand can easily get another Oscar if she had to, Daniel Day-Lewis style, come away with 3. But yeah, I think it ended up winning Best Picture at the Golden Globes over the weekend.
And
Best
then
kind of drama.
Minari winning best foreign.
Yep.
I felt that when we get the buffalo. That was like, we got a buffalo. get the shot, and she's like leaning by the window, and they're like, get the camera, which is great. I love that kind of shit. I think it's awesome. You
And
know.
even in the cinematography, he said that he wanted to keep everything mobile because one of the themes of the film is actually mobility, moving around, being a nomad. So he wanted those images to reflect it. So yeah, great film on Hulu, if I remember correctly. So if you have it or any way to use your friend's subscription, definitely check it out. Really, really well done. So for my number two was Nomadland.
Cool. Um, yeah. Well, are we gonna talk about it? Or never mind, never mind. I agree. No, because like, what's your favorite frame from the film? A still, if you're to have it on your wall, what would that still be?
Um, so many of those landscape and nature shots I love with the tree,
Yeah.
um, her in that weird kind of like when it was like a desert tour and she goes off by herself and it's kind of like that looks like something out of Mars.
Yeah.
Um, her inside of the car in like her when she was naked and kind of just
Yeah,
there's
it's
so many moments, you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of one that stands out, but just the visual design, the steady cam shots, the shots inside of like the Amazon
yeah.
building, those really stand out to me. But there's a lot to choose from. Is there one for you that stands out?
What made me think of it was the buffalo shot. I think that's such a cool still, like someone just looking and they see the buffalo. But the moment or the scene that it's like a wide shot and she's like mixing the salad with her hand, and then he's cooking steaks. And when they're done cooking, they just like grab their meal and they walk over and sit on lawn chairs and just look out to this open view. And I just appreciate that. Like I appreciated when we all got our food after interviewing Ray. We all sat in silence and just kind of chilled and like took in the moment. I felt that in that scene, and I enjoy when people are so close with each other or comfortable, there could just be silence for a bit and like not constant conversation or stimulation, and just like I could picture them like being okay with not having a TV or anything because they have this like insane view, and maybe they see a hawk fly by, or something getting caught. I just think it's like it was a beautiful moment for me where I had I could see why that could work, that lifestyle.
It's very idealistic, and someone like me who doesn't care about, I mean, I love movies, so I can't, I mean, I would still want to see movies, but the ideology of just kind of stripping everything down to just the basics it's especially in this day and age, it's very, very tempting, and there's people that do it. It's again based on the book. A lot of those people that are in the film do this. That's what their life is about. So yeah, I really appreciated kind of that whole visual tone and characters, and even a couple of those moments where like the guys will knock on the door to tell her to leave.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's going to be, and I felt in that position from Fern's point of view, like, is this guy coming in there to do something? You know what I mean? You think,
For sure.
and that's crazy to think. We all go to our home and we go, this is our home, we know our neighbors, we know this. But what happens if every day, every 3 days, your space is changing and who's around you changes? It's cool because you meet new people, but also who are these new people? Can you trust them and all that? So I just love the arc and the change of the character, the world that this film takes place in. I absolutely love that style. And again, I support anybody that's influenced by Terrence Malick because he's
Yeah.
one of my favorites, and she has her own style too. Now I think it's beautiful to see what her career path will be going down the line.
I'll watch anything she makes at this point. I think she's great.
Yeah,
Am I on my number two?
absolutely.
My number two is about a single evening at a house party in 1980s West London sets the scene, developing intertwined relationships against a background of violence, romance, and music. Lovers Rock, episode 2. I'm counting this. I'm counting this as a feature length. The whole series, all 5 episodes, all 5 mini films that Steve McQueen did were excellent. I loved this thing. I made Kendra watch it. I've watched it 5 times. I've watched it 5 plus times.
Wow.
I was really into everything about it, from the costume design, the color palette, the tone, the choice of storytelling. I don't know. Like I just made you kind of watch it recently. Were you happy with it?
I didn't think as highly as you did.
It's okay. It's okay.
Um, I really, but you continue because you think you have more to
Uh,
say about it.
I just appreciate when you can just let them enjoy the full song of a scene, just like something like "Girl Walks Home Alone at Night," where the full 3.5 minute song is gonna play, or the guy at the payphone that that ends up being his like cousin that shows up at the party when he has to hide from the police. We've all dealt with that guy that shows up at your party, and we all want to kick that guy out, or kick his head in or anything like that. And the way they handled him, I thought was so cool. Like I love, we didn't need dialogue, we didn't need a large confrontation. They give him a chance to have the mic, and they give him a chance to kind of DJ it, and they even the way earlier he like steals a drink and kind of plays around, and they like give him a joint, and then they go, hey, come with us, and they just chill a guy out instead of like they're helpful. There was like that's what you should do. Like for me to judge and say that's how I would have handled that is lame, because next time around maybe I will come from a place of peace, or like show some love before you just assume. I love the choice of music though when they're turning everything up. I like the idea of the sirens. They kept doing this thing where I kept seeing a little reflection light, talking about a little O.
Mhm.
I thought that was a really neat trick. I thought that was really cool. The bodyguard scene where he sees the four punk white kids out in the street,
Mhm.
and they're walking towards the girl, and then she bumps into the security guard, who's this like macho Rasta, just meatball of a man, just huge. And everything about it was so cool. Like you didn't need to go through the traditional thing. There didn't need to be a fight. You already see it. You could see it on his scar. He would have fucked him up. I liked when they did the slow parts of the song where you kind of felt their connection with their body, and it was very intimate. I just really, really liked it a lot more than I thought. I don't know. I appreciate the rules that Steve McQueen gave us, where there's a little bit of a narrative there, but it's really you're just hanging out at a party, and I like the way everything was done. I'm very happy. Yeah, definitely one of my number two. That's my
Mhm.
number two.
Well, just kind of going off your last part, I would say it's definitely more of a mood and experience over a kind of a traditional plot, which
Yeah,
I'm cool with.
yeah,
I talked about that same type of thing with Pieces of a Woman, even though that takes on more of a traditional plot in general. But there's not really a storyline that goes on. So if you go in there and you're expecting to see like a beginning, middle, and end in the traditional sense,
yeah.
it doesn't exist. It's more about being in this house party that in this one night it reminded me of a climax, but if it was just a normal party, like because climax really gets into that the dance, the mood, everybody, the moving around, but that goes on a whole other trajectory.
Right, right, right,
It kind of stays. If climax just was a normal movie, how
right.
would it have been? And kind of just being in the mood of the party. I really enjoyed it. I didn't it wasn't my number two of the year, but I thought it was really well done. I love the use of music, the reggae, and like you said, playing the whole song out. It reminded me of Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Even in Black Klansman, where they're roller skating, remember that sequence where they
Yeah, of
play
course, of
basically
course.
play the whole song. So
Yeah,
I appreciate that, and not a lot of people like it. They may say, "What the hell's going on? This song
yeah,
is going on for 5 minutes," or it's a music video. But um, yeah, I thought the casting was really good. That one actor is I recognize him from Blue Story. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see that one, but that was the one I told you about where it's like a rap musical, like really
oh,
kind
cool,
of strangely done,
cool.
really unique approach. But he played the love interest of the girl, Franklin, I think was his name, or
Okay.
something like that. But yeah, I thought, when you talk about, I think it's really covering kind of West Indian and Black culture in the 1980s, and I feel like it captured the 80s really well. the costume design, the production design. It really felt like you were in that era, and that's not an easy thing to do. And I love the fact that it's all in one night, and this girl goes through all this, comes home, lies down, and the
I
mom's
know.
like, get ready to go to church and all
Yeah,
that. And it's perfect because how many people in the world go out, have a long Saturday night, and then wake up? I mean, not everybody goes to church or goes out like that, but I just love the simplicity of, hey, get up, we got, and it's
yeah,
next day, next day, next day. So it's almost like kind of like what you said with wanting to see more with Ma Rainey. This is the
yeah.
same thing, right? If you had an extra 30 minutes to see what's the next day with this guy or what happens, that would have been cool. So I haven't seen the whole series of Lovers Rock, but this was a cool intro into that world, and I really want to check out. I know this one and a couple other ones are really kind of. I've heard great things about the series in general.
I think you're gonna love all of them. I really did enjoy every single one of them. There's something to take away by checking them all out. This was the one though where I was like, you can do this, like this, we can get away with this, and like, is it okay if I do something like, it's just really, I came from that kind of place where like when they're all getting rowdy on the song,
Mhm.
and it's like the cameras on the ceiling pointing down, and they're like on their backs dancing, and the buddies are kind of holding one of them up so he can just be getting rowdier. All of it just, maybe I haven't gone to a party in a long, I don't know, who knows what's going on there, but I loved the environment and the world I was in, and if I could get to recreate that from storytelling, it would be magical. I think it would be just a very, very special thing.
It's a tough thing to pull off because you have to have a style and an intention with it. But
Yeah,
yeah, you can easily do
yeah,
something like that. It's just gotta,
yeah,
gotta be the right mood, the tone. That
yeah,
music was perfect, the setting. So it's really of an era, and I think that's what it. My parents lived in England in the '80s, and I would love to show this to them and say, what do you think about the way
yeah,
it showed?
yeah,
Because my parents always talk about that. Like my dad still gives me a hard time about American Gangster. He goes, that's not how people looked in the '70s. He goes, the shirts, he said that's like a modern interpretation of it. And then he'll cite a couple other films and he goes, that's how the '70s were in terms of the way that they're dressed and look. So this one I would love to say to him or my parents, 1980s London or England, is this how
yeah.
you saw it? And I think that would be a fun thing.
And just the whole setup where they're all cooking, they're
Yeah.
gonna they're gonna provide, they're gonna be proper hosts, but it's not free. And just like, even the when the her best friend's getting taken advantage of, and the way what he's saying to her is so disturbing, but then the way it's handled, and even when he finally gets to take his lady, that he met that night, to his shop that he works on, he deals with this punk white kid, and like, um I just had a ton of empathy for that guy. I could feel for that guy, and what he was going through, and um
You
yeah, it
you
was,
finally get someone that you really like alone, and then like this guy
yeah.
messes up the moment. Of course,
And
yeah.
he can't even be cool. He can't even be cool about it. Yeah, I watched it quite a bit, and I definitely, when I train, I listen to that one hype song they listen to, and I enjoy it.
Was it Silly Games, that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, it's just really powerful the way that music and film can link up. And I'm always,
Yeah,
talk about music all the time with all
yeah,
the films. So the way it's used, there's no rules, but you can also push the boundaries as well. I think Steve McQueen is just a veteran now, so he's cool with pushing those limits. And yeah, the film doesn't have that plot that you expect, but who cares? That's the fun part about watching and making films, is that if everything was the same, it's boring.
yeah.
Try something different, style, genre, etc. So I'm glad you think so highly of it, and we can represent it on the list. And I'm personally looking forward to seeing the rest of them as well,
Yeah.
and getting kind of into those worlds and things like that.
There can only be one.
Number one.
Your number, yeah.
One. Well, I mean, you already mentioned it, so there won't be like a big drum roll about it. But great film. Kind of has a historical element behind it. Josh Trank is the director. It's Capone. I thought it would. No. Yeah, my number one. It's got Shia LaBeouf in it. It's tax collect. No, no. My number one, you've already mentioned. It's Five Bloods, directed by Spike Lee. We kind of talked about some of these things already, but I just really appreciated, starting with the visuals, the aspect ratio changes to reflect the environment. So he had like a 1:8:5 aspect ratio in the jungle, kind of like a wider scope. And when they go to the city, it's like a 2:4:0 kind of aspect ratio. And then when it's going through their memories, it's like a 4:3 kind of old classic TV, and he shot it on Super 16. So I love the fact that he played around with the visuals, but also it meant something. Like if you're going through your memory, it would be more like a Super 16 because that's the era you're from.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant the way that he did that, and just the fact that we didn't talk about this when you brought it up, but kind of the reverse Irishman of, we're just going to put you as you are now
Yeah.
into the the 60s and 70s, as opposed to saying, well, we got to find a guy that looks like Delroy Lindo that's 28. No, you're gonna, and I think that was genius, and it's just funny to see the Irishman put in all that effort last year, and of course I love that film.
Yeah,
but then
it's good.
Spike Lee's like, no, we don't have that money. We're just going to put you in there, and I thought it was really, really well done. Delroy Lindo, Chadwick Boseman, Jean Reno gets has a crazy part there at the end. Jonathan Majors, Clark Peters. Isaiah Whitlock, the she guy from The Wire.
Yeah.
I love him. And originally in this film, did you ever see who the original cast was going to be before it kind of went through some changes? It was going to be Samuel L. Jackson, Denzel Washington, John David Washington, Giancarlo Esposito, who I love him as well.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it for scheduling reasons. And I think Esposito was kind of there last minute and then had to drop out because of scheduling conflicts. But think about that. If you had all those guys together, how it would have been.
That's a tempting scenario. Yeah.
It's tempting, but you know what? Delroy Lindo and these guys, man, Chadwick Boseman, all beautiful performances. Awesome. The music by Terrence Blanchard. I want to highlight him because I love him as a composer. Malcolm X and things that he's done with Spike Lee over the years. Of course, the Motown music, the Marvin Gaye, gives it a different layer, but I think Terrence Blanchard's score, it's very subtle in a lot of moments, very emotional, and I love that. Just so many things to talk about with this film. I mean, we covered it, but the bookends of Muhammad Ali, MLK, kind of talking about their messages, reminded me of the Malcolm X, MLK, and Do the Right Thing. He always brings in those voices and tries to kind of tell you about a past time, but how it still relates today, decades later. Yeah. Wynn Thomas, the production designer who always works with Spike Lee, great job in terms of the sets, the jungle setting, when they're on the boat. I love all that. The Apocalypse Now Club that they go,
so well done. Yeah.
They have their dance too, as Spike likes to use music. The treasure of Sierra Madre kind of being thrown in there. It just does a great job of showing that brotherhood of these characters and going back to a moment and really representing kind of Vietnam from a Black point of view, as opposed to maybe the way that we typically see it. And also just the ending with the kind of the Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people ask Spike, oh, did you go and add that into the film after what happened? And he goes, no, we had that in the script from the beginning. And remember, this film came out like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even less than that, after the George Floyd murder and all the protests. And to have this film come out, the timing, if you want to call it that, whatever it is, with divine intervention, was just made it even more emotional. You know what I mean? The Trump stuff, the Make America Great Again hat, that's more obvious. But to just put that in there, I think in the end, it was kind of like the Black Klansman ending, where it showed the Charlottesville kind of attack and all the words that were said that were very harmful. So again, at the core of the film, it's kind of this search for gold traditional storyline. But then as you kind of go through it, it's almost like 2 movies in one, where it ends up being. So I loved the film immediately when I saw it. I saw it with my whole family. We watched it. This was like couple months into the pandemic, so we were just excited that a new movie came out. I think even we talked about, because you and I coming from the world of, we go to the movies every week, new movie, we don't care, reviews, we're just gonna go. And by the time we get into June, it's kind of like cold turkey, 3 months that we haven't been able to go to a movie or really see a new movie. So it was kind of like us gathering together to see it as this is our movie theater experience for up to that point. And of course, since then we've seen things, but obviously it was on your list. So I know you enjoyed it. We talked about it earlier.
You and I both at some point deserve to go see this in the movie theater, this film. It deserves it. It was made for it. Even knowing it is a Netflix film, it's similar like The Irishman. It's Spike Lee. It's a Spike Lee film and an ensemble cast,
Did you read about Tenet and Christopher Nolan releasing it in theaters in New York City?
Oh, I just saw a headline. Yeah.
He's in I think next week, because I don't think it ever got a chance to play in New York City. He's releasing it theatrically because he said, "Oh, you got to see it. That's the way it's intended to be." So, maybe we'll see somebody's gonna, we'll have Five Bloods out at some point to see it on the big screen too.
Did you see the headline today also that the Alamo Draft House is filing for bankruptcy? It's such a bummer. Yeah.
It said LA was one of the locations, so I'm guessing it's probably that one that just opened up too, which sucks.
It's such a good spot. It's such a great experience. I would love to see the Five Bloods as soon as possible on the big screen. And I thought that would be your number one, man, and as it should be. It's great.
And I should have worn my beautiful T-shirt that you got for me for my birthday.
You're cool, man.
But you show it in our discussion of kind of how we met. There's a picture of standing next to you on the day that we do the kind of the pool scene.
Yep.
I'm wearing it there. We can insert it again if you want to see it. But I'm not trying to plug or get anything for free, but it's a pretty good quality T-shirt. Like it fits really well. And I almost wish I would have gone back to buy. I think they had a different color and they had a couple hats and stuff. But Spike's doing the merchandising really well. I'll give him credit. Spike store that he has where he's always putting up posters, and I keep missing out because I'm not always logged into Instagram and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like a few weeks ago, he says, I have 2 posters, original posters of Malcolm X that I'm going to sign, and whoever gets them first. And of course I look at it and it was posted like 3 days ago, and so I would have jumped on that. I don't care how much it costs. I would have loved to have that Malcolm X poster.
Interesting. I saw it pop up. It was like he's asking, I think, $500 for it.
I would have paid.
I love it.
I'm saying it now, but when I went to check out at the cart, I may have that's for me. We did our 90s list. It's one of my favorites. So, and Malcolm is behind me as well. Just one of my favorite people. So my number one probably didn't surprise you. I know you appreciate the film like I did too. Spike being one of my favorite directors and showing that he still got it. It's hard 35 years into it, still be relevant, be effective. And I think the film, I don't know why it's not getting more attention in terms of nominations. I don't know what happened, but my brother and I would, throughout the whole year, we go, well, it's Netflix. They're going to really push it. It's Spike Lee, Chadwick Boseman, one of his final performances, Delroy Lindo, respected actor, but I'm missing. I don't see anything. I'm not seeing any type of recognition on a high level. And of course, again, Spike doesn't make movies to get awards. He makes movies as an artist. But just from my personal point of view, I feel like when you talk about music, production design, performances, directing, writing, it's like cinematography, everything is in there. So, but at least I recognize it here. My number one of 2020.
Yeah. I agree, man. I'm going to repeat everything I said earlier. Just the way they even did like the violence in the film. It seemed almost like there's still fun attempts for Spike Lee still experimenting and still kind of leaving his mark, giving you a narrative, but yet he's kind of challenging himself as a filmmaker and kind of mixing things up. I agree. Do you know what my number one is? I don't think you know. It wasn't in your top 10, which is cool.
I had something in mind. I go, he's gonna, because when I was thinking of some of the films, I said, he's gonna put this on his list, even though I'm not. let me just peek at something that maybe I wrote down.
Uh-huh.
If it's, I probably didn't even write it because I thought that you were gonna. Let's see. I know it's not Mank. Better not be Mank, or I'm gonna leave. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, damn. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was gonna be that high up.
Yeah. What's it? What is it?
Tax collector. No, the gentleman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is
Yes. Good. Good. Good.
that is my number one. I'm so stoked he knew the song.
I listen to that song all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Do you listen to Boxes of Bush also?
Not that one as much, but Cumberland
All right.
Gap, I'm on it.
He's like cracked him in the head, his eggs went jelly. Ha! Like there's the funniest lyrics in that song. It's such a fun. I think this is my favorite from Guy Ritchie. I don't know if it's just where I'm at as a filmmaker and my age combination, you know, but growing up with Snatch and Lock, Stock and Smoking Barrels, and you know, I know King Arthur, you know, he's got this insane career. I thought this was like a perfect film. This one I got to see in theaters. This one I snuck off when we were filming. I went and saw by myself, and I was just like, oh, I should stop making movies now. I thought it was like so well done and so cool, and the opening titles and the use of that song, and how like you can cut a trailer where you could use Matthew McConaughey talking about, you know, but when a lion's hungry, he eats, bang. But when we see the film, it's used as an exaggerated version of Hugh Grant's character telling a story. I just got a kick out of everything. How he promotes his own beer, the Richie beer in the background, the humor of Colin Farrell's character, where we get to the final scene of the film and he's now saved and helped Charlie Hunnam a couple times, and he's like this. He's like, fucking 3 times now, you're kidding me. The jumpsuits, I love this film. I think it's I immediately bought it. I like the idea of using YouTube also, like in your movie, in the streaming, and how they use marijuana, how they use the cinematography of when Charlie Hunnam rolls a joint, and he talks about how he likes to use a little bit of tobacco for the flavor and the high, and the way it's shot, the way he rolls it, hits it, exhales. It was just like perfect timing for when we shot Freddy's scene and Filthy Animals. Like there was some funny stuff there where I used it as a reference. You and I used it as a reference for the trunk shot. I would love to make a film like this and pull it off the way he pulled it off. Ensemble cast, just kind of like Christopher Nolan. Everyone's sharp, suited, put together nicely. I love the idea of the mind fuck of making the guy say, I need 1 pound of flesh in this bowl or you're gonna freeze to death. Yeah, I just thought it was a cool ass. That's a cool ass movie, you know. It was though. It was just like so overwhelmingly cool for me, and I think it's a really good role for Matthew McConaughey, a really good role for Hugh Grant. My mom personally was like, "What's going on with Hugh Grant's character?" when she watched the film. I thought he was having a lot of fun. Yeah, I love the soundtrack. I listen to it all the time. Yeah. What were your thoughts on it?
I had it on my kind of outside the
Cool.
tent in the kind of the teens area, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite Guy Ritchie. I would still put Snatch ahead of it, King Arthur as well.
Yeah.
But really well done. It's got all his touches in there with editing
Yeah.
and things that he
Yeah.
does. It felt like Charlie Hunnam walked off the King Arthur set and just kept doing the same thing. It was
Cool.
all, I know how to read the room better than anyone,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm confident, and nothing's going to stop me.
Yeah.
And that was the way that he did King Arthur, and just the style in King Arthur where he would tell a story and they would have kind of like those flashbacks where they would explain it. The whole movie was basically doing that. Like that concept of King Arthur was him going back and explaining something to you. So Without question, when you talk about a cool movie, cool characters, and all that, did I ever think at any point Charlie Hunnam was in danger? No, because he always came in and he could read the room exactly. I know who you are. I know who you are. Sit down because your mom is this and your dad is that, and all
Yeah.
that. So, but it's very, very confident in the way that it's done, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
When he talks about how to roll up like the 50-50 and all that,
Yeah.
I really felt that, even though I don't smoke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think even after the film, after we both saw it, we kind of talked about, oh, that's cool that they're doing that, because you always talk about the authenticity of doing something like that, rolling the way that you smoke. Some people, you can see it's staged. Some people do it in a realistic way.
Yeah.
I love the opening titles, the way that they show
Yeah.
what's going to happen before it happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that song was a perfect choice. Like we just said earlier, we both listened to it. Yeah, I mean, it's well done. The one thing that stands out to me, which has nothing to do with the movie itself, but the screening of it that I remember, is that my brother, my dad, and I watched it, and it was the same morning that Kobe Bryant passed away. So the news broke during the film.
Yeah.
So as I'm watching the film, I can hear people say stuff and talk and this, like, and then it was a weird feeling, because you knew something, because everyone was whispering, and it wasn't just. And I remember with like 30 minutes to go, my brother and I, we never check our phones when we just watch the movie. My brother takes out his phone and he goes like this and shows it to me, and it says Kobe Bryant passes away. And I go, what? I go, that's not real. What are you talking about? And I'm just, as I'm watching the film, I'm just thinking about that. And I wasn't even a fan of his. I didn't even care for the Lakers. In fact, I disliked the Lakers a lot, but it was just for me understanding what happened. I go, he passed away helicopter.
Yeah.
And then as the movie is over, I'm just looking at it. A woman came down the steps and just goes to my brother and I. She just goes, Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant. I think like her English wasn't her first language. And we just go, yes, yes. And she just like, oh my God. And I'll never forget this. As we're walking out, it's the AMC 20. I've never seen anything like this, because you only think about it as like a cinematic moment of when something crazy happens and you go through slow motion and everybody's reacting to it. I had never seen anything like that. We're leaving the theater and walking by, everybody's just looking at their phone. I remember seeing a woman come out of the bathroom and it was like she had just seen a ghost. And it was, I mean, we're in LA, so it's a different, people respond to it differently. But I just remember it was that Sunday that we saw the film. And that's kind of one of the things that I remember when you talk about movie theater experiences. That was a crazy one, because it was such a shock and everybody was just in this state. I mean, everyone in the world, whether you like basketball or not, everyone was just trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Because not only was it him, his daughter, 7 other people. It was just a crazy moment. So anyway, I don't want to get too much on that, but it's a really, really well done film. If you're a fan of Guy Ritchie, it's in that wheelhouse. I think Snatch might be my favorite of his, Lock, Stock, King Arthur, but this one is, I like it better than Rock and Rolla. I didn't really care for that one that much. Sherlock Holmes was solid. The second one I didn't care for as much. Aladdin was entertaining, but I think this one I would put above those.
What about Revolver?
There's a reason why I didn't bring it up. Those ones where he was trying to just replicate Snatch and Lock, Stock, where he was stuck in that world. Or the one that he did with Henry Cavill, the adaptation, the that TV show adaptation.
Hammer, Army Hammer.
Army Hammer. What was it? Not Man with the Golden Gun, but what was it? The Man Who.
I'm forgetting too right now.
It's a crappy film.
That dude eats people, or wants to eat meat, and off of you. You hear that about Army Hammer?
No, can you tell me more about it?
Hey, wait, I have to go.
I'm just gonna look. Oh, Man from Uncle.
That's it. That's the one. The Man from yeah.
As soon as then I remembered.
Do you remember the morning we were filming in the backyard and it was really foggy and I and then that's when we found out the next day. It was heavy for me to reflect on that, because I remember that day I was like, where did this fog come from? I'm like, what's going on? Can it look like continuity with the filming? Can we still pull it off? And You know what I mean? It's tragic. That's terrible.
I remembered 100%. It was that Saturday we were doing the scene
Yep,
with Freddie and
yep,
Lars were kind of by the pool area,
yep,
and it was unreal, like almost fake fog, like when you
yeah,
watch a movie.
yeah,
And I remember seeing that, and finally, I think things opened up. But then, when the next day, where they talked about the fog was a big issue, I said,
yeah,
"Of course." I mean, think about being in a helicopter. That's
yeah,
even worse. But
yeah.
yeah, it was just a crazy thing, circumstance in general. But that's great that you had it so high up. I knew you liked the film, The Gentleman, a lot, but I didn't know it was going to be the number one. But that's awesome.
Well, it's weird too when it comes out in like January, and
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
those aren't supposed to be the hitters of the year. And I don't know if it had anything to do with me getting to see it in theaters.
Mhm.
I definitely think it had something to do with the timing of my situation, and just like
Yeah, yeah.
going and isolating myself and telling them I'm gonna go get a burger and I just go see a film and yeah, it was cool.
That's crazy that it sustained itself for over a year as your
Yeah,
favorite film. Like you said,
yeah,
it's January of last year to now.
yeah.
A lot,
There's
a
a lot
lot
of movies.
happened, lot of stuff in movies. So that's cool that it sustained itself for over a year.
I've probably watched, and I'm not bragging, just based on my list. I've probably watched 400 films since, more maybe, since that I watched that film, and it's
That's
incredible.
saying a lot. I gotta
Uh,
watch it again. I gotta buy. I'm sure the DVD now is probably not too expensive to get. I would love to watch it again and just purchase it. Are there any cool features on there or any kind of?
it's disappointing.
All right.
Uh,
Go watch
uh,
it.
just honorable mentions, right? Just kind of throwing
Yeah,
out films.
go out. Go ahead.
Um, Vast of Night, The Vast of Night. Have you heard about that one yet?
Yeah. Did
Huh?
you watch it?
Yeah.
I started watching a little bit of it and then I
Oh,
forgot to go back to it. Is that
cool.
that weird science fiction?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it that good?
It's not. I have a good amount I'm gonna name off. It just happens to be kind of like, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
it's not like it's number 11 or something like that.
Right, right, right.
I just think it was really well done. Filmmaking, as far as like for your dollar, you get a really good bang for your buck. And there's just some like it's shot really well, and especially the basketball court scenes and the oneers. You just feel like you're in good hands. You
Yeah.
know. You want to? I'll name one. I'll name one off. You name one off.
You can go through a chunk. I think
Okay.
that's better. Like
Okay.
whatever, 5, 6. We'll go back and forth. Yeah, go ahead.
Promising Young Woman is another one. A woman's hunting sexual predators. Nothing wrong with that. We like things like that. Tommaso is another one that I think is like just dope. It's good, really good film. William Dafoe, he's just doing his thing, but it has some really cool moments. I really enjoyed the film The Platform. That's kind
Mhm.
of everything's lowering, and we all were invested in it. It was like four of us watching it, I think. It was like Shun.
I was gonna say, I'll tell you something. I get so many students that tell me they like that film or they've watched it or really love it. A lot of
Cool.
people like it. So anyway, just wanted to tell you, you're not alone.
I think the biggest choice we made was putting it on when you put it on Netflix, it does this for you, which I think is a mistake. It gives you the dubbed English. You need
Yeah.
to put it on its normal language so you could hear it's his roommate's voice in the beginning, and put it on subtitles. It's beautiful. Colors Out of Space is it's an experience. That could be, as far as the movies that came out in the same year. Possessor in this film would be fun. That'd be more of the fun one. Colors Out of Space. Um, Shirley was another kind of cool one. Great performances. I have another one called Black Bear that I liked, that I thought was pretty cool. Definitely some, after seeing The Rental, kinda. It's like it's at a cabin, um, and people are hooking up. I had The Assistant down. Um, I brought up His House. Okay, Freaky.
Hmm.
Freaky's really good. Like better than it should be, kind of good. I think Freaky's very well done. The way the kills are executed, and then the horror element they really nail. But then the comedy's great. It's very funny. It's a very funny film. Um, what's the other one? Is it Ran or Run? That horror film?
Run. Yeah.
Run is another one that was really well done. Wolf of Snow Hollow. We've touched on. I kind of talked about. Jim Cummings is a big up and coming filmmaker that I when the movie ended, some of us were like, I don't know about the ending, but it stays with you. That's what's kind of cool. Is like some scenes just kind of stay with you. And I had two comedies I wrote down, Eurovision and Palm Springs. I just thought were entertaining. I thought they were funny and entertaining, and it made me laugh. And I think that's it.
I had Eurovision down as I really enjoyed that one. That was another one that my family and we all watched together.
That's awesome.
My mom, that's one of her favorites of the year. If she had to make a list, I didn't really care. I didn't really care for Palm Springs, to be honest with you. I thought it was high concept, hard to sustain, but it's getting a lot of recognition. That's cool.
They got me really big on the twist in Palm Springs where every day she has to wake up with a guy. I was like, like that was a cool, like, God, that sucks. That explains why she's acting that, And anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I understand what you mean. I mean, for me, it kind of felt like a film school movie. Like that was an idea that everyone has in film school. Wake up, different. So, but it's cool. I mean, I love Run Lola Run and that style of storytelling. A couple that I had kind of right on the edge, Ma Rainey, which you went over.
Cool.
I finally saw True History of the Kelly Gang. There's a lot of problems with the film, but that last 20 minutes, only just for the last 20 minutes, I was about to put it in the 10 because I absolutely love everything about that. I can't wait to show it to students or whatever, but
cool, man.
Brilliant and genius the way that they showed that shootout.
Yeah.
Like the white people in the cloaks and all that and the helmet. Awesome. And it's, of course, it's an Australian Western, so I'm always in on that, Jesse James and all that kind of stuff. And there's a connection with Nick Cave. His son is in the film. Nick Cave's father was like a Ned Kelly historian. So he was somebody that, in terms of Australian history, I can talk about it more when we get to kind of covering our movies, but I had that right on the edge. Gretel and Hansel, I want to just give a shout out to because I really appreciated the visuals of that film.
Good.
And again, I want to tell you, if you stamp the A24 logo on Gretel and Hansel, everyone would have loved it. But it was Orion, so okay, it can't be as cool. But I thought it was as good as anything that A24 might put out in terms of visually stimulating. Really, really well done. The Life Ahead, the Sophia Loren film, the Italian film. I don't think you got a chance to see that yet. I'm Your Woman, directed by Julia Hart.
Now I feel
now you're good.
Now it works.
You haven't seen it yet, though, right?
I've seen bits and pieces. I put it on to I wanted to start it, and I kind of was falling asleep to it. I will finish it, and I was happy with what I was seeing.
It's a very B-level kind of slow burn film, but really, really well done.
Yeah.
In terms, a couple more documentaries. I didn't mention them, but I'll say it because I have them here. My Darling Vivian, the Johnny Cash's first wife.
That was great.
I really loved the way that was executed. And then there's a documentary called The Booksellers on Amazon, which is about I used to work in a bookstore for many years, talking about book dealers and rare books and that world of buying and selling. And I thought it was really great talking about just that world of books and the problem with kind of independent bookstores versus the Barnes and Noble, and there's some depth to it. First Cow, I'll just mention it because I'll talk about it later. I don't think you enjoyed it as much as I did, but
I just kind of slipped on that one. I should have brought it up. Yeah. I'll go with another round.
Oh, did you just forget about it? Is that
I loved it. I really did love it. I don't know if it'd be like the 11, 12, 13 one right there, but I loved it. I really did enjoy it. No, we'll talk about it. And then
that's where it is on mine too. It's kind of teens. Another one, I think I recommended it. I don't know if you saw it yet, but St. Francis. Did you see that one yet?
No, but I looked it up and saw the trailer, and I'm totally into it.
I think you and Kendra would enjoy that. It's kind of like Knocked Up, but they don't go the route that Knocked Up does. It's
Okay.
very much like Judd Apatow would have directed this, and Amy Schumer would have starred in it 10 years ago.
It would be 3 hours long.
It would have been 4.5 hours long with no intermission. But it's written and starring Kelly O'Sullivan. She's like the main character, but she also wrote the story. Fun film, really raw. There's a lot of kind of good moments in there. Malcolm and Marie, I wanted to mention that one. That was
Is that 21?
I don't know. Is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is it? I don't know. Okay, yeah, I think that is a 21 film.
I think it's a 21 because it came out. Yeah,
Oh,
February.
ignore what I said. I just wanted to name the film for fun to see if anyone mention. It was a test. Shadow of Violence. I'm just going to name it. I know.
Cool. Thank you. Good. That's good. You named it.
I think there's a lot of great moments in the film. Is it a complete film? No, but it's definitely worth checking out if you love that world.
Yeah.
Eurovision you mentioned. I also want to mention The Lodge in terms of horror films for the year.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And then the Rental is technically a 2020. That's right.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one too, but yeah, The Rental, The Lodge.
The Lodge and The Rental are good.
Yeah,
those are good ones.
And then a couple Tom Hanks films. I'm just going to mention. I didn't really care for Greyhound, but I'm just going to say it. But News of the World was really solid.
Cool.
Western, and I'll talk about it when we do our kind of movie catch up.
Cool.
Paul Greengrass directed. It has kind of some Road to Perdition feel to it, which I always appreciate. I saw this movie earlier in the year called Spontaneous. Do you know this movie? No. Basically, it's about kind of these people in a high school, and they just spontaneously explode, and nobody knows why. Very, very high concept. I really enjoy the editing in that movie. Really, really well done. A lot of smash cuts and things like that.
Cool.
Check it out when you get a chance. Fun kind of indie movie. On the Rocks, the Sofia Coppola one with Bill Murray.
I want to see that.
It was solid. I wouldn't say it's like in the top 20, but just wanted to mention it. Another one that I thought was good, but not great, Trial of the Chicago 7, but it's getting like amazing. Everyone thinks it's great.
I watched it just recently.
Okay, so we'll probably talk about that. And then staying with that, Borat 2, that was a fun. It was 10 years too late, but it's going to be in that Coming to America category of maybe we didn't need the second one, to be honest with you.
There's an interview on YouTube with Ben Affleck interviewing Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Ben Affleck has like such specific questions on like the process that he does, and it's awesome. It's great.
Let's see. I had a few others here. Well, of course, you didn't mention it, but I didn't either. So I'll say it now. Tenet, just because it's,
Yeah. It's good. No, Tenet was a really great movie theater experience. It was great.
I didn't see it in movie theaters, but I'm glad you at least got a chance to see it. But he always gives you something to look at. So Bad Boys 3, Birds of Prey, kind of the early 2020 films. I thought Birds of Prey had a lot of solid moments in it in terms of the execution and the editing.
There is a scene in Birds of Prey where she's going through the club and they speed her up to Harley Quinn's character, different parts of the club. I love that. I love that so much. I thought it was so cool.
And then some kind of fun ones, Unhinged, of course.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I really enjoyed. It's not a good film, a good film, but it's definitely entertaining. You'll have fun watching it. Yeah. Some other under the radar ones. I thought Body Cam is an underrated film. There's a lot of cool visuals in it. Again, most people probably don't even know it.
The Way Down. You made me think of another one. The Way Down or The Way Back?
Oh yeah, The Way Back, the Ben Affleck one. You had a lot of stuff that came out like The Devil All the Time and Mank and a lot of these Netflix ones. I didn't really care for those. The Old Guard, I didn't really like that one either as much. Invisible Man was okay.
Yeah.
There were some cool moments in that. Happiest Season, I wanted to mention that one too.
Cool.
Solid moments. There's a movie called Herself that I saw recently too. It's an Irish film about a woman who's kind of in an abusive relationship and is trying to kind of rebuild her life.
Okay.
I'll talk about it more when we kind of do our recap.
I'm gonna write it down, put it in my little IMDb list.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Eurovision, we talked about, News of the World, and then one film I want to mention that we'll get into it because I know you saw it before I did. That is, if you were to classify, what is a good film and list what you require for a film to be good, this movie would meet none of those requirements. Yet, I was entertained as hell from beginning to end, and that's The Tax Collector.
Are we ending on The Tax Collector again?
I couldn't take my eyes off this movie for a number of reasons. I think we can end on The Tax Collector.
All right,
And do your catchphrase from the film as well.
Right. So is that all of 2020?
Well, I mean, in a reasonable way, yes. Not spend another hour naming. Those are my highlights.
Okay, cool. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're curious what we've watched recently, just click the link at the end of this episode right here.